Hey, let's start the show.
It's July 26, 2012. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Joining me today, Norman Chan.
Hello.
Hi, Norm. How you doing?
Doing okay.
Video viewers. Wow, that was a drop Nexus 7 just then. Video viewers will recognize that Bradley Shoemaker is joining us for his first appearance in the new office.
Hello. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm drinking this incredibly thick, dark liquid that you call coffee here.
Los Gigantes.
It's pepping me up.
It's
If you
straight,
couldn't tell.
straight from Colombia.
You're using the cap as a cup.
Yeah.
It
that's,
is
that's
a
all I have.
tiny
It's,
cup.
is this an actual
That's a Zojirushi.
A tough, slim, super light?
That is the Zojirushi Tough Slim
Number 2,
Super Light.
It's pretty
I
good.
believe, in the insulated container roundup.
This coffee is a couple hours old and it's still nice and
Piping.
nice and toasty.
Piping. So that one holds heat better than the thermal mug, which I prefer.
This one, yeah.
But it is a
Can't
little
drink
bit
out
less
of it.
convenient.
Yeah, you can't drink.
It is not a
directly from it.
one-handed
Yeah.
drinking device. If you like to drive and drink
Yep.
coffee,
I do. Love it.
you want the one that you have. Better grip.
Exactly. So it is Thursday. What's going on, guys? How is everybody doing? It's good to see you again, Brad. It's been a while.
I'm happy to be in like a startup office again.
It's a proto
feels
office.
Yeah, it feels, there's cardboard boxes everywhere, and
We'll have shelves one day.
you have a bathroom that feels like a house bathroom, not an office bathroom.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, that's actually that's the identifying characteristic.
We were here for 2 weeks without bathroom supplies.
There was no toilet paper.
no
for a
toilet
while.
paper, no soap. And if you know Kuntz, who is a noted germaphobe, that would not do.
I didn't know that about
So Kuntz actually went to Trader Joe's
Yeah.
to buy soap, and then we decided, okay, we actually have to go get supplies for the office.
I did notice you have really nice soap at all the sinks here.
We went to
That's because I went and bought the fucking soap.
we went to
Okay.
Costco first, and we had the option of getting the cheapo toilet paper, the
Marathon,
single ply,
26 miles to wipe one ass.
Wow.
or the premium, pay the $5 more.
Want the extra ply.
And we got it spoiled us. It spoiled
So hold
our
on.
bums.
Have you ruined your experience at home now? Are you having to buy the nice stuff for the house?
I have not. I'm not at the point in my house where I need to resupply, but at the next resupply,
You're going to upgrade?
You're gonna.
you notice it. You require only one fold on the toilet paper.
Yeah.
You use
as
less,
opposed to
so
the threefold or occasionally fourfold.
you use less and it's more pleasant.
They call that cheap toilet paper marathon for a reason, Norm.
It's time to enjoy the finer things in life.
So not only did we get the better toilet paper, Will then went to Bed Bath and Beyond, and
I needed to buy
got
dish soap
only
and
the
wands and
fanciest,
trash
only
cans.
the best
Hey,
toiletries
Bourbon
and
Braun.
soaps for our office. So even the soap resupply for our sink soap
comes
comes
in
in
the pouch.
fancy pouches.
Nice.
yeah.
It's not like a giant jug that Costco-sized jug that you pour into.
That soap
to the
resupply was for the wand, for the dish wand. So we can soap without having to squeeze first. The soap just comes out of the sponge now.
Only the fanciest
Yeah.
trash bin liners.
Obviously.
Hey, the trash bin liners are sized so that you don't see the bag when the lid is on the trash can. There's no
The heck?
No expense spared
No,
around
Oh
here.
no-
my goodness.
Of course, we don't have a refrigerator, so there's pros and cons.
I also did not know about the pro tip of putting your box of garbage bags at the bottom of the bin.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you don't put the whole box.
Well, you
no,
put
you
a
put the
few,
whole
though.
box.
You put a couple.
Yeah,
Well,
I
the
usually
box
put
is
3 or
small
4.
enough that the ones that you got were small enough that
Yeah,
the
we
whole
totally-
box puts in the box because
totally
you don't
do that.
move the garbage bin around.
Yeah.
Right.
And it keeps it weighted.
Yeah.
And then when you pull out the bag, you can
There's
just
another
pull
bag
the
right
one
there.
Right there.
I did
Yep.
not realize.
Yep.
It saves so much space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cabinet space.
And it means that when you're in the room without the garbage bag liners, you don't take the trash out and then are like, oh shit, I got to go all the way to the room and then come all the way
The
back.
only
And then
thing
at that
is-
point, you've got trash hands and you
Yeah.
don't want to be handling your stuff.
When you don't want to put the trash down,
Yeah.
especially with the dog at home, because the dog wants nothing more than to see what's inside the trash.
Of course.
It does take away your ability to grab garbage bags for other occasions, parties, and
That's why you keep some
Well, you keep
in a
cheap
drawer somewhere.
and you keep cheap bags for that. Like you get the fancy ones that fit the can for the can.
What are
and
the
when you're having a
garbage-
party, you go for the cheapos.
what are the garbage bags that require or that are suitable for composting? I used to use paper
bio
bags.
bags?
Yeah, what are there bio bags?
You
plastic
can't use
bio
those in
bags?
San Francisco.
So
You're
you
not
have to
supposed to use
paper?
the cornstarch. They're made of cornstarch.
Why not?
Because they don't degrade
Are you
right.
saying they're not biodegradable enough?
I'm saying that San Francisco disapproves.
So what are you supposed to use for
Fuck you,
compost?
San
You're supposed to use
Francisco.
paper bags.
No, paper bags
Or,
are terrible.
or no bag.
Because
I
paper
use,
bags just self-destruct.
Yeah.
Look, they should be happy that we are composting at all. Nobody in my building
Wow.
but me and my girlfriend compost.
I
Nobody.
used to compost,
Yeah.
and then I used a double Safeway bag, bag Safeway in
Yeah.
a small bin next to
double
my sink.
paper bag, right?
Double, because you have Safeway bags all the time,
Right.
No,
Or you can bring your own.
I bring my
bags.
own bags.
But I
You must
don't.
get Safeway
Monsters.
bags.
I don't care how many layers of paper. At some point, it's going to get so wet, it's just going to rip out the bottom.
And
It's
that's exactly what
disgusting.
happened. Walking down the stairs
Yeah.
one night
Oh,
no.
with a full bag of all my coffee
Yep.
grounds,
I've
I
had that
realized
happen.
how much coffee I
Yep.
have everywhere.
I'm going to
that's
explain.
horrible.
Everywhere.
I'm going to explain something to you guys. You can get a small trash can that's called a compost bin.
Yeah, no, I have a compost bin.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. So that was not only is it bad to have a bag of rotting food rip in your house.
Yeah.
it's bad enough just having rotting food in your house at all. So
Exactly.
So yeah, I got one of those bins.
flies.
And keep it on the little porch behind my place. But
The grossest
but you
bin.
still need a bag in the bin to hold the stuff.
No, no,
Otherwise,
no.
you got to wash the bin once in a while.
Well, you do
yeah.
wash the bin. So I have like a stainless bin.
Okay.
I put a couple of paper towels in the bottom
Okay.
because they can go in compost.
Sure.
And what they do is they work like the wadding in a muzzle load gun for the
right.
trash.
Okay.
So you put them in the bottom and then you pile the trash up on top. And when you dump, stuff may stick to the sides, but at
not
least
the
it doesn't
bottom.
stick to the bottom, which
Okay.
is where the gross stuff happens.
Is that? I thought it was like a city regulation to have it in a bag when you put it in the bin. The big.
I
bin.
don't live in the
big
city.
green
so
bin.
in Pacifica,
Oh, so you can do
we're supposed
whatever.
to just put it straight in the bin.
Okay.
Oh, you're outside city limits.
I'm
you
outside
can use
city
you can
limits.
use
It's wild,
styrofoam
wild.
and everything.
It's the wild, wild west.
So strange to go outside San Francisco
I get
and
plastic
take out
bags.
trays or
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
styrofoam.
right.
Like, oh, this is gross. It sounds terrible.
Well, but see,
Break it
cheaper.
open. There's fluorocarbons flooding the atmosphere. I mean,
I pick up those wimpy cardboard ones that get soggy and wet after
Yeah.
30 seconds with food in them.
No, they're lined. They're shiny lined inside. Don't leave your food in the fridge.
a lot of the
Like
containers,
Tupperware.
a lot of the containers I get now, like just around Second Street for lunch, are indistinguishable from like the old clear plastic containers, but they
Yeah.
all say biodegradable. Like
Well, they're
the,
potato starch or cornstarch or
the
something.
technology
clear?
of biodegradable plastic-like.
Are you talking about
containers.
translucent?
Yeah, like completely clear.
What is
And
are
rigid and strong.
Are
like
potato
they,
forks strong enough now to actually use?
No.
for a salad? Yeah, I don't know if they're
real
made out
food?
of. I don't know if they're made out of potatoes, but the ones I've been using are biodegradable, and yeah, they
Because
totally,
those potato forks, when they first came out, were terrible.
like real flimsy, right?
Like you could
can't.
try to push down on a piece of meat and the fork breaks in
Right.
half or bends.
They've been working pretty well for me.
Maybe you have a delicate forking hand.
Maybe, maybe I just know how to eat.
Maybe you're a good forker.
Yep.
I could keep going. Let's talk about tech. Let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
Just get right going, straight off.
Norm is stroking all of his touch screens.
I gotta make sure they don't go to sleep.
You have this. You have this like cascading
Good.
touch screen
They
arrangement
don't.
going here.
So they don't go to sleep. If I don't touch the screens often enough, they will go to sleep.
I like how they're arranged in order of size. That's
Good grief. Norm, turn on that GoPro so that we can have a shot of this. It's really gross.
it's like you were playing a symphony.
You got to hit the front button and then the top button. Mountain Lion's out, guys.
Yeah.
It came out yesterday.
yeah.
It is. I've been using it now for a couple weeks. We did a quick look, a fairly extended quick look. I think it's really good. You probably want to close the lid on that.
Did you speak at least 26,000 words in your quick
I
look?
know.
Well, then I have better coverage for Mountain Lion.
I love John Syracuse, and I don't understand why anybody else bothers reviewing Mountain Lion other than John
it was an
Syracuse.
incredible amount of depth,
Those reviews are bananas.
like in a good way. Like I appreciated the level of detail. What's going on?
Norm's
GoPros are turning on.
GoPros are turning on, exactly. So here, the short version of that review though is it's pretty good and it costs $20.
Yeah.
So
It fixes what line broke, right?
Does the PDF review cost more than
$5.
So really, it's $25 if you want the full experience.
Yeah, exactly. So the funny thing was Marco Arment, the guy who made Instapaper, did a review of the review yesterday.
This is, by the way, Ars Technica's review.
Ars. John Syracuse has done reviews of every version of OS 10 for Ars, and they usually come in between 18 and 29, 30,000 words. I think Tiger, or was it Tiger? One of them came in at like 40,000.
Wow.
He gets crazy.
Tiger was like the watershed one, right? Wasn't that when OS 10 got good?
Tiger came out around the same time as Either tiger or leopard. What was it? I can't even remember anymore. It was like jaguar, panther, tiger, lion.
Tiger was 10.4.
Yeah, so 10.4 was the big one.
Right.
Because that was when they were starting to have malware problems with XP. Windows was kind of in a decline from a customer satisfaction standpoint. Vista was still probably 2 years away, and it was a big release for them. And they marketed it pretty heavily.
Apparently, his 10.4 review was about 40,000 words.
Yeah, that's what I just said. It was bananas. It was really long.
And that was also when the switch to Intel was happening, right?
Yeah, that was the first release that was after the switch to Intel, I believe.
Right.
Or maybe it was the switch the release that happened during the
around
switch
there.
to Intel. I can't remember. But yeah, it's so the upshot is Lion made a bunch of things worse.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways. I quite like Spaces because I use a laptop primarily, and I think it's really, really useful in that case. I know Norm.
Have you heard of Spaces?
Yeah.
I mean, I know people that dislike what Lion did to Spaces, to desktop management and stuff like that.
So Andy is profoundly against the changes that they made to Spaces.
So is Dave. Yeah,
I think it's much more usable for normal human beings. Dave and Andy are
they're an edge case.
grognards. Yeah,
Isn't that the case for most Apple products?
Yeah,
they make things for normal human beings.
Yeah, sure.
And if they haven't in the past, then they're edging that way now. So if you look at what's happening to Final Cut and Aperture and Logic and all the Pro Tools that they.
I mean, I could sit here and think of like a dozen things that Lion did that individually sound kind of trivial, but together add up to like kind of a diminished user experience for me.
I mean, a lot of it was stuff that I just never used. So things like Launchpad.
Well, so yeah,
was
like
useless.
Yeah, the Launchpad's useless, but they did things like the newer keyboards have a Launchpad button in place of the dashboard button, and I still use the dashboard, but I no longer have a button for it.
You use the dashboard?
That stinks. Well, yeah, there's some useful stuff.
Yeah,
on
you
the
can
dashboard.
reprogram it though.
I did, but I had to go find a third-party utility to remap that key. Who uses the Launchpad? It's terrible.
Mine has a Launchpad button. I never noticed that.
The changes to the trackpad gestures I thought were kind of garbage. I still to this day cannot reliably do the show desktop like little pinch. You know what I'm talking about?
That's much easier to do now.
Really?
Yeah.
Then I want Mountain Lion.
Or a middle button on the mouse.
Yeah.
Default.
Yeah.
Do you miss a middle button? Oh,
middle button is the show desktop.
Middle button you should never use because it's a scroll wheel.
No, scroll wheel. I
It's
use
impossible
a
to hit
real
it
mouse
precisely.
on my Mac. I don't use the Magic Mouse.
I'm saying middle button is the scroll wheel on a real mouse. You shouldn't click the middle button. You should never click the scroll wheel. Never click the scroll
It's an
wheel.
extra button.
It doesn't click right. You can never hit it without scrolling.
No, then
You're
you have
right.
a bad mouse.
Well, yeah, it depends on the mouse.
It depends on the mouse. Don't get a fast scroll mouse.
Yeah.
Get a clicky click.
I want fast scroll. I want to scroll as fast as humanly possible.
Not many mice do that anymore.
I know. I miss those days.
The Logitech I have, what is it? Is it G400? It has like a tension release button on the wheel.
So it'll free spin.
Yeah. If you turn it off, it'll just spin for
Gonna
hours.
go free spinning.
Yeah.
OS 10 doesn't support that right though. That's a Windows.
Yeah.
It only really works in Windows.
Okay.
So with Lion and Mountain Lion, the big tagline is iOSification of Mac OS and bringing the features that make sense. But it's more than that, and just in terms of features, but also
Norm, you're really creeping me out with the stroking of the tablets.
But also the way they're releasing OSs now, it seems like they're moving toward an annual instead of a big update, but just incremental updates.
200 new features.
It's not 1,000 new features. Only incremental updates to Mac OS 10, and then charging $20, $30 as opposed to $50, $130 as they previously did, and that is more in line with the iOS release schedule.
They've been $40 for 3 releases now. I mean,
it's half the price.
Yeah. So. Stuff that's good. The integration with iCloud is really good if you're on an iPad and iPhone the rest of the time. If you spend your days using iPhones and iPads, having an ability to type a reminder in on your Mac and have it work when you're on your iPad or iPhone is great. It's fantastic. The notification stuff that they've done, even though I'm kind of anti-notifications just from a productivity standpoint, is really good. If you want those notifications, I think it works better than Growl, and Growl is going to come up and support passing through notifications to the new notifications pane. So I guess Growl is eventually going to go away, probably. Let's see, other stuff that's changed. They added search to Launchpad, which actually does make it usable. It's still one order removed from just pressing Command and Space to launch an app, which is what human beings should do.
Sure.
The Safari changes to Safari. Safari 6 is dramatically better as a browser than previous versions of Safari. I could actually see myself using it, except for I'm pretty invested in Chrome at this point. They're killing, it looks like, they haven't said that they're killing, but the Windows version of Safari has disappeared.
You can make the inference.
Poofed. So you used to be able to download Safari 5 for Windows, Mac, and Windows and OS 10. It's no longer available for Windows in Safari 6, and there's no reference to it on the Safari 6 page. So assume it's gone. I don't know. Well, you say
anybody use it?
Except Safari is going to support browser tab syncing and bookmark syncing and stuff like that with the iOS. So that means if you're an iPhone user and you use Windows, that means the only way you're going to get browser syncing is to use the Chrome browser on iOS.
Which is, what's the verdict on that? I haven't seen it.
So it's great, except for there's no way to change the default app handler for HTTP links in iOS. Same thing. Same problem with Sparrow has with Mail.
It means the interface, the UI is novel in that you can swipe with tabs and stuff, and there's good device syncing.
It does
devices,
bookmark syncing and all that.
The rendering is still Safari in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you don't things that work in Chrome on Android and Windows, obviously.
I think it's fine to have multiple browsers, run multiple browsers on a mobile device, because you can use your spatial skills to group certain browsers. It's like having Windows almost. Like, on your desktop in Spaces, I would have one window in one space with 10 tabs open and then another 10 tabs open somewhere else.
And you actually use multiple browsers on the desktop, right?
Only because Shockwave Flash does not work in Chrome very well.
Right. See, I only use Chrome, and I just don't go to sites that use Flash. That they don't work well.
YouTube uses Flash, and we use YouTube for our videos.
YouTube works fine on my computer. I don't know what you're doing wrong.
I'm using 30 tabs, that's why.
Okay.
With only 4 gigs of memory.
That would do it. So yeah, that's Mountain Lion. You should watch the quick look if you want to know more. I think for $20, Syracuse is right. It's a no-brainer.
But spend the $5.
Don't spend the $5. Don't.
Final word.
I mean, here's the thing: is I read about half of that review last night, and it took me an hour. I got to the halfway point.
128 minutes, even for Marco.
I mean, there are multiple paragraphs about the scroll bars. Like it's just a staggering.
That's a big change. That's a good change.
No, it is. You're right.
Like if you look at the things that were really, really frustrating about Lion, the disappearing scroll bar, they really fucked that up badly. Because if you were using a mouse instead of it was great if you were on a trackpad, but if you're using a regular mouse, it was almost impossible to grab those scroll bars. They fixed that. It's much better now. So yeah, I mean, I just hope that the OS 10 annual release cycle doesn't turn into them breaking a bunch of shit with one release and then fixing it the next, which is what Microsoft did with Vista and Windows 7.
Right.
And Windows 7's great, but we had 2-3 really bad years there with Vista.
So if this comes to pass and it turns into an annual thing, that means that we are only 2 years out from a 10.10.
Yeah, 10 squared.
What do you guys think is just like the long-term future of OS 10 and like whatever might come after that?
I think that there's a real specific reason that the logo is OS X and not OS 10.
Right. So you think they're just on that? I mean, original Mac operating system lasted for what, 20 years?
I mean, more or less.
I mean, iterated on in probably pretty dramatic ways, but the underpinnings were there.
I think that the next time we see a major rev bump, I think the next time we see OS 11 is going to be when there's a significant UI change or dramatic changes to the way OSs work. Like if some massive change comes to the way you use OSs. But you think about how long that ramp up for OS 10 was. We said earlier Tiger was the first one that was really, really great. I mean, the one prior to Tiger, Jaguar or Panther, whichever, I can't remember which one it was okay. It was usable because I ran that at work because we used InDesign. You had to use InDesign with Macs. But, OS 10.0, 10.1, 10.2 were not particularly good. And 10.0 and 10.1, I don't think many people use in production environments. Apple can't afford to do that now. They can't afford to take 2-3 years to ramp up a new OS and abandon the current OS 10 crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I just got around to reading the Steve Jobs biography recently, so then I went and watched a bunch of YouTube videos of stage demos and stuff, and like I watched the here's the big Aqua unveil of OS 10, and like the video they were showing there has almost no resemblance to what actually exists on the desktop.
Oh yeah,
like it changed so much in so short a time.
Well, the interesting thing about what they do with their UI Chrome especially is it's a real subtle, constant change. So you don't really notice it happening going from one revision to the next. But I was using one of our Mac Pros, which has Snow Leopard on it, and went right over to Mountain Lion on my laptop, and it's a dramatically different.
It's like one of those
OS.
optical illusions. If you stare at a picture and they change little bits, like in 10-second intervals, eventually the entire picture will change, but you will not notice
tell the
it
difference,
at all.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, that's out. I think if you have printers, you probably shouldn't get it right away because there's always printer compatibility problems. I think that's the joke Marco made, was that you can't. He pays $20 a year to break his printer. But yeah, I think it's great, especially if you have a laptop. I just got a notification for my MacBook Air that the Power Nap stuff, the Power Nap firmware is ready, I can download that.
What is that? Updates while it's asleep?
Yeah, so the idea is that when your computer is off at night, it can spin up everything but graphics and sound and do things like Time Machine, do system updates, all that, so that when you wake up in the morning, you maybe have 10% less battery than you had when you went to sleep, but everything's like all the kind of maintenance stuff that nobody really likes doing and always puts off is done for you.
Software updates and
software updates.
That feature alone sounds worth $20.
Yes,
that sounds fantastic.
Software updates and backups are the big ones.
Oh, that's great.
Right now, only Apple applications can hook into that. But the thing that happens is while it's up to do a Time Machine backup, all the other stuff that normally runs is going to be running. So, if people are clever with the way they program their apps, then they can look at what time it is and do the things that they need to do.
I've traditionally left Time Machine off and just plugged in a drive every couple weeks to do it. But that sounds like a great reason to just leave it on and let it go every night at 2 a.m. or something.
It's weird with the laptop. I wish that there was an easy way to just use the NAS that's already in my house for Time Machine, because I don't want to buy an Apple router. I think they're not very good. And I don't want to plug in my laptop. It's much less valuable if I have to actually plug in my laptop
into a drive.
Into a drive.
Because
I'm not going to do it every night. Yeah, because usually, not every night, but as often as not, my laptop's sitting in a bag hanging from the back of my dining room chair.
Right.
So
I never disconnect my laptop. Laptop is tethered at all times to the monitor and USB hub.
When you leave it here, a lot of times, I know.
Take the iPad.
Let's talk about, first off, quick note, Windows on the OS front. Microsoft announced that Windows Build is going to be, which is their annual developer conference. Microsoft Build. It's their big developer conference. It's the week after the RTM. So it's going to be real interesting. That's
not week after RTM, week after
release. It's week after release. Yeah, so it's, I think, October 30th through November 2nd. It's going to be in Seattle this time. It was in LA
in
last
Microsoft corporate headquarters.
Yeah. So I wonder, I think at this point they're thinking it's going to be a victory lap for the Windows 8 release.
It could be either.
And there's a lot of controversy because Gabe Newell came out yesterday and said, hey, Windows 8 is, and this is a direct quote from this point on, a catastrophe for everyone in the PC space.
Everyone. OEMs,
I'm going to go ahead and
developers, users.
Gabe was one of the only people who came out and said, hey, Vista is really garbage early on. And they're looking at early code, and they're looking at all the same stuff that everybody on the consumer preview is, and I'm sure they have extra relations. Part of it is obviously that he's worried about Windows Store as competition for Steam. I'm sure.
I always also have to wonder with him if there is any kind of lingering resentment.
Oh no.
I know he made a lot of money,
there,
and also he's moved on. But
he's built Valve on the work that he did at Microsoft.
Yeah, that's sure.
But he. As badly as they've flubbed games for Windows consistently over the last decade and change, the question remains. He's in a position. He built something that's fundamentally better in every way imaginable than Microsoft's entry into that same space on their own platform, on their own OS.
There is no chip on his shoulder.
No, he has no. He is the high road.
He has knives on his shoulder.
Sure.
He has
knives everywhere.
Exactly. He also said some interesting things about user interface, and that he thinks touch is a fad that won't go for more than 10 years.
Until something better comes along.
And the next step, maybe it's tongue interface.
I think he was joking.
No, he's not joking. He's saying that people naturally talk, and your tongue is a very versatile muscle, and you're talking about subtle movements. Implication is that you use very subtle movements. The muscles that you are most comfortable with, that you have the most control over, can be tapped for user interface.
This seems very cyberpunk.
Forming a very inappropriate mental image right now.
Well, you don't have to form. That's up to you.
Can you roll your tongue? Brad can.
Yep.
Norm can. I can't.
Really? Oh man!
Oh god!
It's brown and coffee.
Oh no, that was a bad image.
This is the day when the podcast video setup pays for itself.
Oh. Yeah. The Windows 8 stuff. Have you used Windows 8 at all yet, Brad?
No, not at all.
And Norm, you're not either.
I just chose not by choice.
I don't feel any compulsion to. 7 works so well.
See, I felt like it was important for me to have a idea of what's coming with Windows.
And put it on your home machine?
So I put it on my home machine.
Bad idea.
And did a clean install because I hadn't done one since I think probably before Windows 7 came out. It had been 2 or 3 years. And oh, good God. So it's not as much that the Windows 8 stuff is offensive, like the Metro stuff. It's just that I never see it unless I'm looking for something that I can't find. So
clarify for me. There is no more start menu.
No start menu.
So if you hit the Windows key, what?
It goes to the Metro start
Metro
interface.
screen.
And
right?
it slides over.
Okay.
It kind of just
the animation
pops up. It's real fast.
slides over
Apple-like
to
trying to
side
emulate the Apple style of animating everything.
Someone might describe it as slick.
Okay. But when you like one key press on the Windows key, you get that Metro screen. Does the focus immediately go to a text entry?
There's
field?
there's no field. But when you start typing, it just goes to a list of applications. It works just like the Spotlight thing does.
The functionality is
or search on Windows.
But as opposed to it being a bar that drops down, a menu that drops down.
Because that's how results. That's how you launch stuff on Windows now,
full
right?
screen.
That's how I do.
Tap the Windows key and start typing.
But they don't telegraph that to users who don't understand that at all. So I think the preferred method is for you to look at the live tiles and click on the thing that you want. The problem I have is that you kind of like I find myself never looking at the idea of live tiles is really cool and useful and seems like it's going to be the future maybe in one place or another, but I never look at them.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, the amount, as somebody who has been on a Windows Phone for a while, the idea of like the ambient data output is amazing if you spend all your time in that interface, which you do on a mobile device, but apparently you're barely ever seeing it.
Brad, the word is ambient.
Executable.
What did I say?
Ambient.
Accessory.
Ambiance is a word.
Ambient is no executable.
Ambient.
I'm sorry.
Ambient.
I'm sorry.
Ambient.
I'm going to look it up right now.
Say ambient, motherfucker.
Nope. I will not concede.
So,
but yeah, I mean, that's all you're seeing on a mobile device is that interface.
Yeah.
So absorbing that data in line with everything else you're doing makes sense. But if you're never seeing that stuff on the PC, why is it even there?
Well, you see it. It's there, but I never look at it. Like I literally the only like I turned off mail. Like I was using the default mail client as my mail client, the one that's the Metro one. Turn that off because I never wanted to be full screen.
Ambient data on the PC happens. It's there already because of the desktop.
Right, because you have 20 windows open.
Because your desktop space is massive. If you're on a 24-inch monitor or 30-inch monitor, because you can resize windows, because you have browser tabs that have the tab. Your Gmail shows the number of unread messages.
Right.
That is ambient data because your IM window flashes.
And 7 went a long way to helping with like window organization too.
Yeah.
Being able to drag to the edges.
Oh,
and
so
stuff
good.
Like that. Like that stuff is great.
And that's stuff that I miss on OS 10. Like it is, that is great. Those are great features.
You can get that.
I know. There's all sorts of add-ons and stuff.
Little cheap add-ons and stuff.
So yeah, I think that the Metro impact for, but so like I said, it's not offensive because I don't ever use it. But they have the same problem they had in the early days of, I guess, XP, when they had kind of the idiot-proof control panel, and they also had the normal control panel kind of buried a layer deeper. It's the same situation because a lot of my control panel stuff is in the old school control panel, which I have to launch by typing control panel, and then a lot of my other features are in settings, which is a Metro app, and you kind of don't know where the split is, and it's really confusing. And I kind of know what I'm doing when it comes to OSs, so I can't imagine what it's like for a normal person.
Sure.
So yeah, I totally get the value of this interface on tablets. I think that Surface is still really interesting, but I'm very concerned about how this is going to be reacted to on desktops. And I think it could be a massive flop for Microsoft, like Vista level failure.
It would cost them more than that.
Well, I'm just saying, like from a reception standpoint, not from an economic standpoint.
So in terms of number of adopters and stuff like that.
In terms of number of adopters,
$20 as opposed to $100.
Is it? What's that?
Cheap.
$40.
It's 40
as opposed to $100.
Yeah, sure. Although, I mean, it's $40 out of your pocket, but then you have to factor in time to install and get used to the interface and deal with any incompatibilities. And, there is a time sink there.
But people who are upgrading, there's no TCO attached to like normal upgrades. I don't think anybody in corporate America is going to put this on their desktops. I think that's crazy to think that.
I don't see. I mean, I use a PC for games. That's it. I use I'm on OS 10 for any kind of like productivity stuff. So, but I don't see any incentive in the gaming community to go to this either.
Well,
unless they pull some kind of horrible Vista Jack move and say like DX12 is only on Windows 8.
I think they learned their lesson on the last one.
Yeah,
I think that they're not going to release Halo 2 for Windows Vista 5 years after Halo 2 came out for the first Xbox.
Right. Well, I don't know how much they're talking about. What are they calling it? The Windows Marketplace.
The Windows Store. Yeah.
Like that stuff will probably be 8 exclusive, right?
The store, you won't be able to get those apps. I mean, you'll have to get them from the normal channels, not on Windows 8. The store is exclusive to 8 because it's a Metro app.
Oh, but you don't think the apps on that store will be exclusive?
I think that...
Because they're out there talking about some pretty high-profile games like Skulls of the Shogun and stuff that are going to be on the mobile devices as well, and I could see stuff like that being exclusive to 8.
So the apps, anything that's an app will be exclusive to 8. You can also, like, Adobe can sell Photoshop in the Microsoft Store as well. It won't be delivered exactly the same way, but like that stuff is independent of Metro. Right. So anything that's a Metro app will be exclusive to 8. Anything that's a normal Windows 32 or 64 app will run on anything, assuming they don't, like you said, make DirectX 12 exclusive. I don't think that they can get away with doing that at this point.
That's
because the PC
assuming.
gaming market's real weird right now, and the hardware vendors aren't going to settle.
Right,
aren't going to go.
And that's assuming there's even a need for a DX12 anytime soon.
Like I mean, it's DirectX 11.1 is what
11 is pretty mature at this point, and
and I mean, developers aren't going to build games for DirectX 12 if they make it an 8 exclusive. And 8 sucks.
And the hardware baseline has also shifted down in the last few years.
Dramatically. A lot of consoles.
Yeah. I don't find that bad. I like to play games on my MacBook.
It's a good thing. It's what's awesome is being able to buy anything I see on Steam and just assuming it'll run at 60 frames a second.
Yeah, and your machine's even if your machine is 2 years old.
The days of Crysis 1 are kind of gone.
Exactly. That's not. We all learned an important lesson with Crysis 1.
Yeah,
it was fun.
No more Microsoft Flight. Norm just put this on the list.
Yeah, it's Patrick's posted story on Giant Bomb. That studio is laid off 30 people.
So that's the free-to-play thing?
Yes.
Who? I'm shocked that a free-to-play flight simulator
flight sim
didn't do well.
I heard it was okay. It sounded like people enjoyed it.
It seems like X-Plane has taken over the hardcore community.
Well, so it was not really hardcore.
And it's not a hardcore game.
It was designed around the 360 controller and sounded like a pretty casual experience. I actually kind of wanted to check it out, but now it's
people don't want to casually fly planes around.
It's over.
It seems like going to work at a Microsoft flight sim studio is the easiest way to ensure you're going to end up on unemployment in like 3 years, because they laid off the combat flight sim guys, they laid off the flight sim 10 guys.
Combat flight simulator.
Like all those flight sim studios get built up, they release a game, and then they get sacked almost immediately. Sorry,
there was another product tied in with this layoff, right? It was Flight and
Columbia or something. It's a name project.
Oh yeah, it was a Connect project that I guess hadn't gotten very far along.
I wonder if it was related to the Steel Battalion debacle.
Oh man, talk about it.
Yeah, Canon announced their mirrorless camera earlier this week. Norm?
Yes, he did on Monday morning. EOS M.
What does that mean for somebody who has very little?
Do you have a camera?
In a phone.
What's your camera?
I mean, I just use whatever's in the phone at this point.
Are you happy with that?
Not exactly. A photo bug or something.
You're not happy with it?
It could be better, but
Are you interested in DSLRs? Are they too big?
It's a little too much commitment.
Too much commitment.
Well, in terms of
anti-commitment.
Well, it's like you said, it's large, bulky.
Brad's a single guy. He's not going to let any camera tie him down.
Carry it around. It's expensive.
Size is a problem with DSLRs for you.
Yeah.
And also you don't necessarily want to buy a ton of lenses, right? Lenses can cost from $150 to several $1,000s.
To several $100,000 for the crazy ones.
The very few lenses that are several $100,000, but they do go up there. Lenses made in 1950s, sure. And Canon
talking to the microphone,
and Nikon both have now mirrorless cameras. They're small compact cameras with larger sensors. Nikon's ones suck, and the Canon one that was announced this week, come out in October, sucks less.
So why did the Nikon one suck?
Because it was smaller sensor.
So bad quality photos. Because the benefit of mirrorless,
size reduction.
Size of sensor. So the bigger the sensor, the more light can hit it, the better the image is going to be.
But the practical benefit is that it's a smaller
body
enclosure.
Yeah. Yes. So without the mirror and all the mechanism that makes that work,
don't need a lot of room for optics in there.
Yeah. It's instead of being a big bulky thing, it's like the size of a point and shoot with a big lens on it.
Okay.
A little bigger than the point and shoot. Bigger than your Ashton Kutcher. This one is $800. Comes with a new lens mount. EFM mounts, 2 lenses announced. You can only get the pancake one in the US. $800 is pretty expensive for this kind of camera, though.
Will it work? When you use? I know they're going to do an adapter for current Canon mount lenses. Will auto stabilization and focus and stuff like that work with the adapter?
Canon is yes. Answer your question. $200 adapter.
So
yes.
So it's not. So when you use a Canon adapter on a Sony camera, you don't get autofocus and stabilization and that kind of stuff.
You can only if you use their Sony Alpha adapter.
Okay,
which is $250.
So I mean that's the benefit. If you've bought a bunch of Canon glass for your SLR,
if you have several $1,000s invested in Canon lenses and you are looking for a camera that's more portable than your, I wouldn't say Rebel because you wouldn't have a Rebel in $7,000, but like a 5D Mark II or 7D, then this is a small compact camera with an APS-C size sensor, same sensor as the Rebels, but that will fit in your bag, your shoulder bag.
And it seems like Canon's also pushing this a little bit toward the video market.
Yeah, same sensor, same video stuff as the Rebel T4i. So do 1080p, 24 FPS, 25 FPS, 30 FPS, and also has audio in and 2 stereo mics on top.
Very cool. And that'll be out when?
October
for $800. $800 seems like really expensive compared to those Sony cameras that are selling for starting at $600.
Sony cameras start at $600 and go to $1,200, $1,300.
Yeah. Sparrow. Do you like Sparrow, Brad?
I bought it a while back for my non-existent iOS device. No, I don't have it on.
Are you still doing that?
Yeah, whenever if I see an iOS app on sale,
hold on. We will get to this your interesting predicament. In a second. But Sparrow, you didn't have it for desktop. You only.
I tried the light version on the desktop. Okay. There's no way to. You're stuck with the vertical like iPad style orientation, and I'm not used to that, and I don't like it.
Oh, you're a landscape guy.
Yeah, Mail.app has like you can do the horizontally oriented panes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You know you want the top and bottom.
Like
you want Outlook style.
Yeah.
That's
just what I'm used to. I've used Outlook for many years, and then Mail does the same thing.
Gross. Okay, so that's a legitimate reason not to use Sparrow.
You use a computer monitor or a laptop in a landscape orientation, so you have more horizontal. So
depending on how many monitors you have,
I want things arranged horizontally.
I like things to take up half of a. I arrange my monitor to a grid, and I want things to take up a half, quarter, or whole grid. I'm not working on the rule of thirds here. But Sparrow, which is my favorite OS 10 mail client for specifically tuned for Gmail, it works with labels, works with spam filtering, the Gmail spam filtering, and all that stuff, as well as the Gmail spam filtering ever works. They got bought by Google, which seems like a great thing for Gmail because they're going to go work on Gmail and modernize Gmail, which is interesting because Gmail is almost 10 years old now. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's been around. It's been around for a long time.
Did you know that you can get 1 gigabyte of email storage?
That little storage counter has been taken up.
On April 1st.
All that time.
April Fools.
Is Gmail still technically in beta?
No, they came out 5 or 6 years.
Still have to invite people.
But it was like 5 years. It was in beta for 5 years.
A long time.
So like an invite? I have a lot of invites left.
Yeah, I have hundreds of invites.
I've got a few.
How much? I never had a webmail account before Gmail. That was the first time it seemed good enough to do.
Are you kidding me?
Totally.
No. Never used Hotmail?
Same thing for me.
Well,
you ever use free Hotmail?
It was always
number one email service in the world.
It was always email addresses attached to employer and to internet provider.
What was your personal account?
I did university and.
But I had one of those too when I was in school, of course. But
I went straight from university to personal domain because I worked in the university for a little bit.
How else would you sign up for spam accounts? Personal email.
I guess I didn't.
I just didn't put my email address into anything.
Yeah.
Or I did something really dumb like do tomcruise@gmail.com or hotmail.com.
You say
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, you say that.
Oops.
You just justified everything.
Karma is a nightmare.
So what do you think Google does with this?
Google, I think there's 2 ways they could go, and they've been kind of coy about it. I think they could build dedicated clients similar to the Android one or to Sparrow on iOS or OS 10 for Gmail, which isn't a bad thing. Or they could use these guys' expertise to kind of modernize the Gmail interface on the web.
Okay. So you don't think Sparrow as it is going to go away?
They have said that they're going to continue supporting Sparrow as it is, but will add no new features.
Oh, so it's done.
So
continue supporting means you can download it. You can
so
buy it.
They bought Sparrow to get the talent.
That seems like an acquisition.
Sparrow has kind of run into a dead end.
But the other option is it could be like when what's his name got the Tweety guy.
So I was going to bring that up.
Sucked into Twitter
because that ended horribly.
It ended really badly.
Tweety was an incredible Twitter client, and they bought it to get that guy in, and then he left, and now it's awful.
Yeah.
You don't like Twitter for iOS?
It's I don't know. I'm talking about the OS
desktop
version,
one. Yeah,
which is just horrible.
TweetDeck also.
TweetDeck also is bad.
Yeah,
now.
Well, that's the thing. Like everything Twitter buys seems to go to shit.
So what is the last hope for Twitter on desktop?
Web
browser,
Tweetbot.
Yeah, I'm waiting for like that
browser.
Tweetbot alpha is pretty clunky, but it shows a lot of promise. So I hope that they get that thing cleaned up.
He said that he's not selling out to anybody until they offer a whole lot more money than he's ever gotten offered before.
Tweetbot?
Tap Paul. Yeah.
Okay.
So they could just restrict his access.
Yeah, that's true too.
So I mean, wasn't Twitter talking about, not to get too far off the subject?
Twitter has
they've
said
been talking about restricting third-party feeds, right?
It's been a recurring theme for the last 6 or 8 months.
Sounds like the word. Like, why would they do that? That's got to be like
they want to prevent
the bulk of the user base.
So no, it's not.
It's not.
It's a tiny fraction
Really?
using clients.
Everybody's using the web.
Norm is the populist here.
Yeah, web browsers.
Yeah, so, most people don't even
that
realize that clients
interaction
exist.
tab.
That interaction tab's so bad. I've been using the Android Twitter client, and it's just. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So they keep threatening to kill third-party clients. I think that they'd probably have problems if they killed Tweetbot, judging by the number of kind of power users that use Tweetbot. Like if you looked at the people who are generating the most content on Twitter, you'd see that they're using clients, and most of the people who are just consumers of content and don't post a lot are web browser people.
That makes sense.
And you know what? Most people are producing a lot of content. A lot of those are the terrible SEO people who do who market on Twitter.
Yeah, you know, like us. Hey, check out our modernist cuisine videos on Twitter.
Do you schedule your shit?
No, I never schedule. Well, I used to, but then I stopped because I'm scared of it
That
now.
is the line. If you cross the line to schedule your tweets and have like plugins and different things,
well,
to
TweetDeck
show,
will schedule tweets
and
for
only
you,
follow people who have as many followers and reach and shit. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Wow. Dark place this podcast has gone. Gmail, Sparrow. I think that there's probably a pretty real possibility that they'll release a Gmail client for iOS and maybe update the Android one, because I think at this point Sparrow is significantly better than Gmail for Android. If it had push notifications and the ability to be the default mail client on iOS, it would be amazing. It would be the way I use email.
You don't like Gmail for Android?
Gmail for Android's fine, but I don't like the unified inboxes. It's kind of dopey about some stuff, like being able to select multiple things doesn't always work the way you'd expect. All of these clients have good things and bad things. You just have to figure out what's the right kind of solution for you, what you're willing to sacrifice in order to to do whatever it is you want to do.
And there is no Sparrow for Android, right?
No Sparrow for Android.
Okay. Is there anything else besides the default? Because not to get ahead of ourselves, but I threw CyanogenMod on my touchpad finally, and so I'm just now dabbling in the world of Android tablets.
What a great $100 purchase you made!
Yeah.
Hey, compared to those $110 Android tablets you can buy, it is.
Yeah, I can show you a $100 Android tablet. There are a shitload of mail clients for Android, and I think Gmail is probably the best of them. But I haven't used a whole lot.
The built-in one,
Gmail one. Well, it's not really built-in. You can download it from the market too.
Right.
But yeah, it's there's a lot of really bad clients. There's a couple that are okay, but I haven't used them enough to say definitively. Let's see, what else do we have here? Pebble Smartwatch is going to miss its September launch date, guys.
I want to quote a Will Smith quote from yesterday, but I'm not going to because it's so offensive.
I wasn't here. I want to hear it.
There was lots of laughing.
I perhaps
offensive to whom?
People who pre-ordered the Pebble Smartwatch.
I don't think that is a horribly oppressed group. You could probably get away with that.
Here's the thing about the Pebble Smartwatch is I want to believe in the idea of the secondary display for my device.
It's a super cool idea.
But if you're buying it and you use an Android phone, you might actually get something that approximates that. If you buy it and you use an iPhone, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
I'm sorry.
Why is that?
Because iOS doesn't have OS level hooks to give you the information you need on that screen.
Or the information you want.
So it's only going to work when the app is running on the phone.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a really
Oh, wow.
It's a clunky big watch.
That's terrible.
Too.
There's a lot of sad people.
That right there makes that thing worthless. If you're an
iOS user.
If you're on iOS, that's awful.
It is
buy things for what they are.
Not even a first gen product.
Yeah, buy things for what they are, not what they promise.
I just love the photo of the dude hard working on the Pebble Watch, the guy, and then have on his multi-monitor setup, and the caption is he's like keeping a watchful eye on the Kickstarter, and it's like at several millions of dollars.
Yeah, Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He's 2 steps away from the Scrooge McDuck money vault. Okay, so that's delayed. Woo. No HBO Netflix super team. Norm, I know you were disappointed by this. There were rumors of an HBO Netflix
A
deal.
one-way conversation. Netflix has said they wanted to pair up HBO, and
Never
HBO said
happened.
nope,
Never
no,
happened.
We're better than you.
I mean,
go back to Showtime, bitches.
Like if Netflix paid $1 million an
back to
episode for Mad
Stars.
Men, like what could HBO? Who knows what they could charge for that stuff? Like it's astronomical.
HBO, because they control the supply and demand, is they're in a unique position
and have arguably the most coveted content available
pretty consistently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're slow to the point that they take probably 4 months longer than anyone else to release DVDs and Blu-rays of their core series. Like the Game of Thrones Blu-ray came out, I think, a month before the second season started. That's crazy because everybody else releases it the moment the season ends.
They've consistently been doing that for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So like Sopranos and everything.
Well, it's because they have rerun seasons on HBO.
Yeah.
Do you guys buy Blu-rays of TV shows? Or DVDs?
I haven't in years.
I have Blu-rays of Game of Thrones. I have that Blu-ray. I have
See, I've been waiting after the Deadwood thing because I bought the Deadwood discs as they came out, and then they came out all as like the entire 3 seasons for the same price that I paid for maybe a season and a half. I just wait until the whole run's over and then buy the whole thing.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you plan on rewatching it? Did you not want to rewatch it before?
I usually don't watch it while it's on the first go round.
I mean, watching Game of Thrones on Blu-ray before the second season started, rewatching it on Blu-ray was wonderful.
That's the thing for me. I don't rewatch stuff. I watch everything once and that's
as
it.
HD as good as HD is on TV or HBO Go on Xbox, the quality I think still sucks.
I think the quality's fine. I think the app is terrible.
I think the quality on your bit rate. On iPad, the experience is so bad that I was watching on perfect Wi-Fi. I saw all 5 video streams at one point watching a TV show on HBO Go.
Is this at your house?
This is not in my house. Perfect Wi-Fi because I did a speed test. I saw the low bit rate, the medium bit rate, the high bit rate, and then jumped to HD.
I've never
and then I got the audio only stream.
Nice.
At one point, not enough bandwidth. For video.
I think something is. I would be interested to see. Was this at your house or was this someplace else?
No, friend's house. Yeah,
because
test.
I've literally never had problems with HBO video quality wise. Occasionally on like Entourage and Curb, you'll get a weird frame rate judder, but I've never had anything but the HD stream.
And compared to Blu-ray, when it's 1080
free versus $35,
pay the money, get the quality.
Okay, first 1% norm, ladies and gentlemen. Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, Twitter is working on making all of your tweets available. So I joined Twitter in early 2007. If you have more than I think is either 2,300 or 3,200 tweets, you can't go back further than that.
I don't even know how to go back that far.
You just keep going back. You keep pressing back
on the
back,
web interface.
On the web interface, just keep going back. It takes hours.
And how many does it store?
20. It's either 2,000 or 3,000.
You can't like type a page number into the URL or something.
No, I tried that. It doesn't work.
3,200 tweets.
I have almost 30,000 tweets at this point with replies and everything. So I wasn't able. Well, there's a service called Old Tweets that a guy went through and manually scraped Twitter IDs because they're still available on the web. There's just no index of them attached to your account.
So where is that database? Like
the Twitter database?
Yeah, where are the tweets older than 3,200?
They're in a database someplace, but they're just not linked to your account. So it's a database problem. Andy could probably explain this much better than I can. But my understanding is that the database that they used for early Twitter doesn't scale in some specific way the right way. And so basically they keep an index of your most recent 3,000 tweets associated with your username. And each tweet has a unique ID. So like there's a tweet out there. It's 10017543117. You can't access it. If it's not in your index, you can't see it when you go back in your history.
Sounds like an awfully convenient engineering problem, also / business opportunity.
Oh, you think they're not gonna sell access to that? No way. They're fucking valueless.
Yeah.
You sure about that? If someone said $1,
my first,
would you pay $1
to find out what your first tweet was?
To have access to all your tweets?
Actually, that's kind of tempting. I'm curious.
$1.
I'm really curious.
My first tweet was about writing something about finishing mouse reviews.
I saw
you know what? That anecdote worth $1 to you because you mentioned it 10 times.
That's probably true. I'd pay $1 for that.
Got a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah, it's the kind of information people want to know. I found my first reply too. But anyway, this old tweet service is manually the hard way going through API calls, each number Twitter ID, and indexing them and associating them with accounts. So the last time I looked, he was up to like June of 2007, which is when it started to explode and Twitter got really, really popular.
I'm looking forward to the infographics that will come out of this. So much data.
Well, the interesting thing about early Twitter for me was there were no apps, there was no API, so I was doing everything via text or IM. You could still Twitter with IM back then.
You can still Twitter with IM, right?
I don't think you can anymore. I think they turned that off years ago.
I should get rid of that IM contact from my...
Try send a message to it and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's like my Twitter frequency was real low until they started adding API stuff and basically Tweety and until I got an iPhone, I guess, really was the big thing. Couple of science stories. 97% of the surface of Greenland's ice sheet thawed in a matter of like 4 days.
Great.
It was this, according to ice cores, this is something that happens about every 150 years. The last time it happened was in 1889. But it had to do with this weird weather pattern that was producing heat waves in a kind of like a series of heat waves that were waves themselves, a wave of heat waves over the icy continent.
How much water was that?
Oh, it's a lot of water. But it's only the very surface of the sheet. It's not like the sheet is kilometers thick.
Right.
Still, it's unusual enough to be noteworthy.
Wait, but it is expected behavior?
Historical record of ice cores, which in Greenland we can get pretty easily, shows that it happens every 150 years.
Okay.
If it happens again next year, then
we should freak out.
I mean, I think it's probably worth having a conversation right now. But
sure.
Next year should be a real warning sign.
I saw Waterworld, right? Get a tattoo on your back, point to Mount Everest.
Is that the goal? Was that Mount Everest? Is that where they were going?
Yeah, of course.
When have warning signs ever spurred anyone to action?
The yield sign, crosswalks.
So much easier to put your fingers in your ears and pretend everything will be okay.
I'll be dead by the time there's a real problem. So our friend Brian Lamb, Wirecutter, formerly of Gizmodo and Wired and a bunch of other places, just spent a week in the Aquarius undersea base off in the Florida Keys or off the Bahamas someplace. It's in the Caribbean someplace.
I don't know what that is, but that sounds incredible.
So what it is, he's been sending me pictures, taunting me at night. And he's been posting stories on Gizmodo and Boing Boing and a couple other places. I'll link them in the comments of the podcast if you guys want to check them out. But they're definitely worth reading. It's the last undersea compression diving base in the world. So if you don't understand how scuba diving works, every time you go down, I think 30 feet or something, the pressure increases one notch. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that forces more nitrogen into your blood than you're accustomed to. If you come up too quickly, that nitrogen forms bubbles, essentially carbonating your blood, nitrogenating your blood. And then that does really bad things to you. It's awful. Yep. The bends. Yep. Really painful, potentially deadly, can cause brain damage, strokes, all sorts of bad problems.
Yep.
Strokes and the bends?
Strokes and the bends. So the way it works is once you get down below 60 feet, every time you go another 30 feet down, the time that you can stay at the bottom goes down an exponential amount, I think. It goes down dramatically. So at 60 feet, you maybe have 45 minutes at the bottom without decompressing, which isn't very long. And if you're carrying tanks, you'll have very little air at that point because it compresses too. And the volume of air in the tank compresses, but your lung volume remains the same. So you burn through air much faster at depth. When you have a compression diving habitat, what happens is the divers go down, pressurize themselves, stay in the habitat for a week, and they can stay underwater all day basically because they're accustomed to the nitrogen in the water. There's some other health effects that you have to watch out for, obviously. But basically, they can do things like put thousands of little hair-like sensors that measure water flow and place them really specifically. And things that robots can't do, things that you can't do if you only have 40 minutes of linger time at the bottom. Okay. And I mean, basically, they can stay there long enough to become really familiar with the environment so that they see things that you normally wouldn't notice or wouldn't pick up.
This is very similar to spending weeks at Everest Base Camp to acclimate to high altitude.
It's the other version of that.
The other end of the spectrum.
But even though it's 60 feet below the surface, it's the same kind of extreme because water pressure increases much faster.
That's not that much.
No, it seems like not that much until you roll over on your back and look up and everything's blue.
Humans, man, not the most hardy organisms.
Well, we have a fingernail thin slice section of Earth that we can live on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So the funding for this is running out. It's I think it's National NOAA, NOAA. I can't remember what the acronym is, but they fund it. They're scrounging for money to get satellites, and they invited a couple of journalists, including Brian, to come visit because he runs he's a ocean aficionado. He started surfing and discovered a love of the ocean that I think most men save for their children. And runs a blog called The Scuttlefish.
It's a regular Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock.
Kind of, huh? I don't understand.
What's his name? Alec Baldwin loved the ocean.
Oh, right. He wanted to be a marine biologist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was thinking he's kind of a Cousteau.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's been there for a week and been posting a ton of interesting stuff. It's amazing looking at how people live. And there's two sides of it. One is the science side, which is fascinating, but the other side is how an underwater habitat works. Because we've all seen The Abyss and Deep Sea 6 or Deep Star 6 or the horror version of The Abyss. Maybe I'm the only one who's seen that. Deep Blue Sea is the shark movie, right?
I think.
Yeah. This is it's fascinating because they have the moon pool. You come up under the lip of the thing, pop your head up into the air, and then there's an airlock between that and the rest of the thing. Usually they keep the habitat vented, pressurized at 2.5 atmospheres. But when it's time to decompress, they gradually decrease the pressure in the habitat. And at the time that the pressure goes up, they have 60 minutes to get out of the. They had the normal decompression applies. So they don't do the old 60s style diving thing of coming up 15 meters at a time and lingering for 2 hours in the water. They just decompress in their jammies in the bunks in the habitat. They have internet and things like that because there's a buoy on the surface that gives them a telephone internet. They only stay down for a week at a time though.
Do they have parties as well? Masquerade balls?
I don't know I don't think there's booze on board because I think it's a government facility. So
yeah, that's ever stopped anyone.
I would say maybe somebody's making moonshine in the backyard, but it's essentially kind of like ISS in that you're very isolated for a relatively short period of time in this case.
I want to believe it's like those isolation chambers for the astronauts in training, and got the booze leaked on board, and they have to stop the program.
It's if you look at this, it looks like it looks like this big footed thing. It's been there for like 40 years, and it looks like a space station kind of. I mean, it looks like a bunch of big containers welded together on the floor of the ocean. It looks super cool. I highly recommend you check out the stories he's posted. Again, I'll post links to them. Everybody should read them. And if you think that's worthwhile, then you should write letters to your congressman and tell them to fund NOAA because they're shutting down after this week. This is the end.
That's a shame.
It's a bummer. Let's see. Last thing, Norm has written move to.
Hey, you guys want to move to Missouri?
Why? No. I've been to Missouri. I'm cool.
No. I want to move to Kansas City right now.
Why is that?
Because Google just announced the pricing and availability of their fiber service.
Oh, I saw that.
Hold on. MO is Missouri, not Montana?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
It was Montana's.
MN.
Oh, wait.
MT?
No.
Wait. I thought
MN is Minnesota.
MN is Minnesota.
Oh, no, you're right. It is Minnesota. Oh, my God.
MA is Massachusetts. MI is
Maine.
Michigan.
Oh.
ME is Maine.
That's right.
And Montana has got to be M.
How many states start with M?
A lot.
The fuck is wrong with people?
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Delaware,
Okay.
Florida.
Okay, we're
Georgia,
good. We're
Hawaii,
good. We're
Idaho,
good.
Illinois,
We're good.
Indiana.
Stop this.
Iowa, Kansas,
Stop
Louisiana.
this. Stop this. Stop the madness.
Google last year awarded Kansas
been a while.
City. Yeah, because there was a whole stupid competition of renaming your city to Google, and Topeka tried it. Did not work.
Topeka tried to rename their.
Topeka to Google.
Fair enough. Okay. Take the native.
Kansas City got
the honored Native American heritage and throw it out to rebrand your city.
This is very
terrible.
This is all American. You're saying things that jives with
Yeah,
U.S. culture.
I guess that's true.
And Kansas City will get gigabit internet service. Kansas City residents can sign up now, $70 a month.
Wow.
Which I think for about 936 megabits per second download.
I'm in.
That's probably worth it.
In addition, you can pay an additional $50 a month and get Google provided TV. Ditch Comcast.
Wow.
Ditch Dish.
Wow.
And have, how much you pay for TiVo right now?
$15.
So bundled in DVR functionality, 8 shows recorded at once, 500 hours, and you get a terabyte of Google Drive space. for all your shit.
So that's what, $140 a month, you said?
$120
No,
a
no,
month.
70. Oh, 70.
Right?
70 plus
and
50,
it was
$120 a month.
Wow,
like
plus
90.
taxes and fees.
Plus tax fees, any more if you want the premium shows, channels like HBO and stuff. $300 setup cost, but if you sign up for a 2-year contract, no setup costs. So $120 a month, I'm down for that. That's how much I pay for Comcast
So that's
right
what
now.
I pay right now. Yeah, I could run a server. We could run game servers and stuff.
Well, I wonder what the latency
service.
is. Like the throughput is high.
Stupid
but
fast. I'm
probably,
sure.
Probably.
Fiber. I saw a rumor that Comcast is going to roll out 300 megabit connections for $2.99 a month. Is that right?
Yeah, that's got to be business class.
I'd pay. I'm okay with that. I would sell that out to my neighbors.
$300 a month.
I would
for 300 megabits.
I would run Ethernet to all the 6 neighbors within easy walking distance and be like, hey, $50 a month, super fast internet.
Put it in a tube and
Yeah,
bury it
just
under
put
the
it in a
ground.
tube in the backyard.
What do you get right now? 20, 25 megabits?
Well, about 20.
20, yeah.
Oh
my goodness. It's
70.
order of magnitude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
50 times faster.
Yeah.
that's really fast.
Yeah.
That's faster than our old office internet, which is as fast as I can ever imagine using.
I used to
How many
question,
megabytes per second are you downloading?
So that's the thing. I used
that
to
point?
I used to question the practical use of this kind of bandwidth, but until Steam became such a thing. And now it's like, all right, I want to buy a game.
Your
and how
SSDs could
fast-
not keep up.
How fast can I play it? Steam has really made
You would need to
bandwidth,
RAID in order to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't find like I have either 20 or 30 megabit Comcast right now. I can't
Comcast?
remember. Yeah. And I don't find Steam to be, even when I download something huge. I mean, I guess
Do you live in a house with 5 other people?
no, fuck that. I'm not a peasant.
Okay.
Single family dwelling, Norm. Single family dwelling.
Yeah, same for me.
And Chloe does not use that much internet.
Chloe uses no internet. She's a dog.
That you know of.
Yeah, that I'm aware of. She does post videos occasionally. Yeah, I download Steam stuff, no problem.
Yeah,
it takes like 4 minutes.
I
most of the
routinely
time.
Really?
pull like 3
10
megaseconds.
gigs of 30 gigs of Max Payne if I wanted to play that.
That
right
one was
now.
a good solid couple hours
Exactly.
even on
Yeah.
20
If you don't,
megabit
you have to
connection.
plan ahead. You have to
Yeah,
start it at the office.
I ran
and then
that one
come
overnight.
Back. Yeah.
Well, the thing
Overnight. Instant. I want it now.
Well, I downloaded
Well, I
it the
guess
second it unlocked.
That's
and
what
I was like,
OnLive is for.
the other thing I did, or Gurkai, if you're talking about
you're
Sony,
Sony.
right? The other thing I did, the thing I do is when I get home from work, like before I make dinner, I just go start the download for what I want to play. Like last night, I was sitting there looking at that Endless Space game, Endless
Space.
Endless
It's a
Space.
cool game. But it's like a gig and a half.
and I didn't realize that when I was
15 minutes.
But then I was like, do I really pay $30? I'm gonna probably play this. This is gonna be like $7.5. I'm gonna play it once and then never touch it again.
Yeah, that's
And that $30 seems I'll just go play like Galciv.
There's another one coming out in a couple
Sins
weeks.
of a Solar Empire
Another
or-
very similar Space 4X game. So you might want to. What's going on over there?
I just got a text from my wife. It said "cool?" ? And then a link to some stuff.
All right.
I guess she doesn't know that I'm podcasting now.
Okay.
Can we talk about Siri ads for a minute? Because that Martin Scorsese Siri ad started.
Yeah.
And he does things like ask where his friends are, and none of that fucking works.
Did the Sam Jackson thing work?
No, the Sam Jackson thing doesn't work.
The Zoe Deschanel thing. Is it raining outside? Hey Siri, is it raining outside? Nope. John Malkovich?
Is it raining outside? The Malkovich one was the worst because it was like life.
Don't think it's raining right now.
She doesn't. Let's see, that worked.
Okay, that was.
But if I
fairly
say,
impressive.
"Where's Norm?" It just doesn't work. First off, it doesn't.
Found 4 places matched
See,
warm. 3 of them are fairly close to
those ads.
3 of them are fairly close.
Those,
There's a secret Norm.
hey
in the
Norm, are
building.
you fairly close?
Google.
No. Here he's going with the Nexus 7.
Google.
These segments, I always think that they're going to be a good
Google.
idea. And
Google.
I don't think they ever are.
Google. Nope, not working.
Not working.
Yeah, this is great technology. I want to go through and do the things from each of those ads in a video and illustrate how they work in the real world. Because I think that those ads
They
are
don't. It's been done.
deceptive advertising.
Yeah. Notwithstanding the accuracy
Yeah.
of the content, I just felt like they're a little out of character for Apple.
They're cute.
To use
You know what?
celebrities
They're
to hawk their
very,
products.
Very popular.
I'm
That
sure
is
they
why
are.
they're running them.
Well,
sure
who
they
doesn't
are.
love
Extremely
Malkovich
popular.
and Zoe Deschanel and Sam Jackson and Martin Scorsese?
maybe this was more of a Steve Jobs thing, but it always felt like they were trying to prop the product up as the celebrity. You know, like the product is the star.
The features.
They always did
Like,
that.
They didn't need celebrities to sell.
if you look
what
at
is an inherently desirable item.
if you look at the Think Different ad, they didn't use celebrities, but they used famous figures.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Well, but
Gandhi and Einstein.
Apple
and,
was in a desperate position at that point.
well, that's true. It was a different time.
That was a Hail Mary.
Anything else for news? Are we good? I feel like we covered the high points this week.
I guess we're...
Norm?
I'm sure there were more things.
Yeah, people will post angry messages in the comments, I'm sure. Let's take a quick break and talk about what we're testing. Hey guys, I bought a Nexus 7. It is really awesome and I love it a lot.
Yeah, you guys seem pretty into that stuff.
It's $200, which seems like exactly the right price. I'm not using my Kindle at all anymore. Like I use it laying in bed reading. I've been reading comic books on it. I use it to browse the web. I use it to post comments on Tested. The web browser is markedly better than Safari on iPad. I love 7 inches.
No.
Yes.
Safari on iPad is still much faster than Chrome on Nexus
More
7.
capable than Safari on iPad.
The thing that...
Capable mean that we can post comments on Tested.
Meaning
yes.
that I can post comments on Tested.
In that
yes.
regard,
which
yeah.
is a significant amount of my browser use on a tablet.
The biggest thing about it for me that struck me when I use Norms is just how elegant of a one-hander it is. I can't believe how light that thing is.
To hold and read.
It
yes,
looks. I mean, it
but
feels
in
like a
order to actually
solidly
do things.
Yeah.
You still need to tap. I mean, you hold. One hand, tap
I mean,
with
hold.
one
I don't mean
hand.
you can do everything with one hand, but I mean you can hold it very comfortably with one hand.
Absolutely.
The other hand is free to navigate.
Let me tell you,
Yes.
it's good for all sorts of one hand. Wait,
Oh,
no,
dude, let's just.
never mind.
Well, Norm did show me the video playback. It seemed pretty capable.
Yeah. We need Jeff here. Yeah, it's pretty good. The face recognition thing is dumb.
Does not work.
It doesn't recognize me because I'm wearing headphones.
Exactly.
So Google sells this directly, right?
This is straight from Google Play Store.
You can actually
built
buy
this
it.
thing?
Asus built it.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It says right on the bottom. Asus.
Oh, okay. Wow, I had no
with
idea.
The fake rubberized back.
Designed and everything.
So,
'Cause it
the full
feels
story-
very elegant.
The full story was at CES in January this year at the NVIDIA conference. Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, came up on stage and says, was pimping Tegra 3, their ARM chip. And in his pimping of Tegra 3, he said, oh, by the way, we've partnered with Asus. They're going to release a $250 7-inch tablet. And people are running with Tegra 3. And wow, it's amazing. Back in January, that was incredible. Very few people actually got to see that tablet. And Google...
It was one of those things that they always had, like, they held up or had behind glass, but you could never actually handle
Yeah,
it.
and in private meetings, people got to see it. That tablet never was released because Google intercepted Asus and said, hey, this looks pretty great. Let's work together for 6 months, make it better. And how would you like for it to be the Nexus tablet? And that is exactly what this is.
Jeez.
And I mean, this is the interesting thing about this is the way I think that the manufacturer OEM relationship should work. Right? I mean, if you look at what Microsoft's done with Surface, which has pissed off all the OEMs, versus the way Google handled this with Asus and said, hey, you have a really awesome product, but we want to work with you to make it the showcase of what we want
Despite
Android
them
to be.
owning
It's almost-
Motorola Mobility.
Right.
And
it's
Motorola
almost
also
like
making
competing for a government contract or something. It's just like whoever can
Yeah, whoever's going to make the best
produce
one.
the best work for the lowest
Yeah.
price. Like, here you go.
Yeah, I think it's good. The screen's really great. It seems very responsive. I don't have the touch problem. I know that some early models had that, and so there was some battery problems with the early ones as well.
The quickly will go up on Tuesday. The screen is really good for this price. It's still not as good. I mean, Pixel Density aside, in terms of color and brightness, not as good as the iPad.
Yeah, the default wallpaper is very specifically designed to not highlight, to not put it in a situation where it's going to show the dithering that like Norm's wallpaper.
So they did cut some
illustrates.
corners.
I mean, it's $200.
Yeah.
I feel like it's still not quite as disposable a device as like a $79 Kindle, which is, I mean, it's not a disposable
You're not
device.
taking it to the beach.
Yeah, but I would take the Kindle to the beach. I wouldn't take this to the beach.
You don't want to get sand in these ports. No. The biggest thing, though, is this 8 gig and 16 gig difference. It's a $50 difference. 16 gig is selling much better and selling out. I think at that point, you're talking about double the capacity for what's 1/4 the price increase difference relative to the 8 gig.
Yeah.
That 1/4 the price, I don't think is worth having that capacity when you can, at $200, that's magic.
Yeah.
250 plus tax and shipping. Closer to 300, then you're like, deciding between.
Then you're $50 away from an iPad,
iPad
kind
too.
of. Yeah. The thing about, and the other thing about the capacity is 16 gigs isn't really enough to still store a lot of video. I think this is primarily a streaming device.
Yeah, Google
for most
Drive
people.
works perfectly.
Yeah.
Video streaming on Netflix, audio streaming, Spotify.
music from Google service, which is free, or from one of your paid services if you subscribe to RDO or Spotify or something like that. The nav stuff is great. It lets you cache maps offline. Like it is. I don't notice that it's offline when it's offline, which is
That's cool.
Yeah, you can do your searches and everything, and GPS works while Wi-Fi.
And the other thing about it is the Google Now stuff is kind of magical.
I want to be able to customize
it
it more, because every time I do Google searches on my desktop, I'm like wary now. Because if I search I search for a restaurant or something on Google, and just looking up a restaurant location, then Google Now will automatically assume, I have an affinity for that location, and here's how fast it is, here's how far away it is.
I think it's a like, this is the first Android that seems coherent and awesome. I mean, I didn't use Ice Cream Sandwich much, in fairness, which people have said is very good. And I know you've been using Ice Cream Sandwich on your touchpad for the last
Just
few
started,
weeks.
just getting used to it.
But yeah, I feel like this feels like a coherent whole in much the same way that iOS has for a long time. And I think we're probably seeing the influence of Matthias Duarte, who came from Palm, is evident. I hope that's what's caused this.
It seemed, like I didn't use that thing for very long, but it seems like kind of soup to nuts. That thing makes a convincing argument for a 7-inch tablet and for that platform.
This is a good time to talk about Brad's.
Oh man,
your interesting predicament, because most people we know are invested in ecosystems, whether it's phone, on desktop, or in the tablet. Right? If people who bought iPads, we know, have iPads 1 or 2s or 3s, are happy with them. Some people love their Android tablets. People not happy with the Kindle, love Nexus 7.
I don't know anybody who's not happy with the Kindle. People aren't happy with the Kindle Fire.
Kindle Fire is what I mean for tablets. And people with phones, they are either people who bought the original the HTC Incredible or the Droid, and then now have a Galaxy Nexus. Right? They're embedded in their ecosystems. You are like in election year when after the debates, how they ABC goes to the
you're an undecided voter.
Undecided voters, and I always call bullshit. There's no way someone is an undecided voter. I kind of like Obama, but that Mitt Romney is kind of convincing too.
I am the proverbial fence sitter. I am equally in every ecosystem at the moment.
How is that possible?
I don't know, dude.
Describe your predicament.
I've got let me lay out my investment. I'm on a MacBook Air.
Okay. A work-assigned MacBook Air.
Yep.
And you're on a Mac before.
I had my own MacBook Pro as well that sits on my coffee table doing nothing right now. But
aging.
I'm still using the Samsung Focus.
Okay.
So you're on a Windows 7 phone.
On a Windows 7 phone. I'm on a MacBook Air.
Previously, you were on a iPhone 3G.
I've got an iPhone 3G.
And you're waiting. You didn't pick up 3GS, didn't pick up the 4 or the 4S.
I'll get to the root of this in a second.
If I recall,
to finish delineating my situation, I've got this HP touchpad here, so I was on WebOS for a while.
I still say that's the best $99 you could have spent last year.
It's for the price, it's a fine piece of hardware.
Yeah,
and then you have Ice Cream Sandwich.
And then I've now recently put Android on there, so I'm in. And
your finger is in every pie.
And I had, like I said, I had the iPhone, so I own a bunch of iOS apps.
And you game on a PC.
So yeah, I've got a Windows 7 PC that I play games on, MacBook Air.
How's that fence feel?
Windows Phone 7, WebOS,
you want to hop on one side.
I will say that
does it chafe when you straddle it so hard?
It's getting a little
uncomfortable.
It's getting a little
crackle?
Uncomfortable.
Okay,
actually,
we have toilet paper for that.
It's starting to wear thin. I will say that. The ubiquity of the Google Cloud stuff has made it a lot easier to be on all those devices.
That's. I mean, the thing that I found, because I jump around not as much as you, but I like getting up and running on an Android tablet at this point, being heavily invested in Google and some other and Dropbox and other cloud stuff, really is easy now.
The platform independence of that stuff is really nice.
Yeah,
it's email, contacts, calendar, all that stuff propagates to everything.
It makes me really wary of things like PhotoStream and getting too hard into Apple's locked stuff.
You haven't, Well, you can integrate that stuff with Dropbox. You can make your photo stream tied into Dropbox, and then all your photo stream photos go to Dropbox
with Windows.
So I'm afraid to tie into any platform specific stuff like iCloud or SkyDrive because I'm afraid you don't want to get stuck.
Right. Yeah.
The reason I'm in this predicament, just to clarify, is that I got spooked by iPhone 4 antenna gate.
Okay.
Right. That was right when my contract.
You were right. You were right to not buy an iPhone 4.
Contract was up when the iPhone 4 came out. I was all set to buy it.
Your contract's been up that long?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
You wasted 2 years of subsidy.
I don't want to hear it.
You could have had an extra phone for $99
knowing
at that time.
If I had known then what I know now, I would have just gotten something.
Okay.
But yeah, didn't get the 4 because of the antenna stuff. And by the time that seemed fixed and good to go, I was like, well, the next iPhone can't be that far off. I'll get that. And then that came out and it lacked, a lot of stuff. There was no LTE. It was the same size screen, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't get that either.
So you had iPhone. You were expecting an iPhone 5 and were disappointed by the 4S.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I basically just didn't want to. I didn't want to get something else because I don't want to be stuck on a contract when the phone I actually want comes out, which sounds like it's probably the iPhone 5. Like all I want is an iPhone with a bigger screen and LTE, and
Okay.
it seems like we're going to get that. So I'll probably go for that. But then the Windows Phone 8 stuff sounds like it might be kind of cool. I don't know.
We got to bring you back.
It's just
for after the announcements of the next iPhone and after the announcements of for next Windows phones.
I figure by the time the Windows Phone 8 stuff starts rolling out, the iPhone 5 will have been out long enough.
We'll put you in
for
an empty
people
room with similar-minded folk.
Yeah.
And do some interviews. You might be the only person in that room on the fence.
All right.
Well, maybe hire some actors.
So let me ask this:
nice old ladies.
Should your choice of ecosystem trickle upward from the phone? Do you guys feel like that is the crucial, like the
device you use,
the linchpin device
most of the time?
Yeah,
I think it's more about. It depends on you. It depends on everybody's different, really. I mean,
everybody's different, child.
Everybody's special. Mr. Rogers was right. I don't think that there's any right answer. I think if you're a hardcore Mac guy and you do a lot of photography and stuff like that, and you're like the iCloud stuff is of high value to you. You already have an iPad. I think once you already have an iPad and a Mac, then iPhone is a pretty smart way to go.
Of course.
I think if you are more interested in being able to kind of break down and change whatever you want about your phone, I think Android is the selection there. I mean, one of the things that I forget because I've been using iOS for a long time, pretty much exclusively, is that there are literally apps to let you do everything to your Android device.
Sure.
Like when I complained on Twitter this morning that I wish the Nexus 7 screen got dimmer for late night reading in bed, somebody said, "Oh yeah, and I got 5 different apps sent to me on Twitter within 15 minutes."
And people have used apps to detect power for the Nexus 7. Know that when you have a magnetic cover on the Nexus 7, your power usage is like in deep sleep mode and uses like 20% less power than if you just press the button.
That sounds pretty neat, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing Android is lacking is that Microsoft and Apple have like a 3-tiered ecosystem, like computer to tablet to phone, and Android is only 2 of those.
Well, but the nice thing about Android is it's Google services. So the Google services work on every PC, whether it's a Mac or Windows or Linux.
You're right, but they also work on iOS and Windows Phone pretty well.
To a lesser extent, but yeah. I mean,
ironically, I've had more trouble setting up my Google Apps stuff on Ice Cream Sandwich here than I ever did on iOS. And
in fairness, it could be because of the ROM. I mean, a lot of times the ROMs are weird. Also, you're talking about your corporate mail, right?
Yeah.
So that your IT department could be blocking stuff that's not.
Well, this is
signed or
actually
whatever.
our old.
Oh, this is the old stuff.
The
Oh, that's
old
weird.
Google Apps. It just
So I mean, I really don't think that there's a perfect answer. The one thing I will say is that the Android stuff, especially the Jelly Bean that I've used with the Nexus 7, is much better, much more polished than it ever has been before.
I mean, this thing, even in the 10 minutes I spent with it, is bordering on a revelation as far as
it's wonderful.
Android usability goes. Like that thing is beautiful, and it's smooth and pleasant and looks nice.
The keyboard's
functionality
great.
Seems fantastic.
Yeah, the new keyboard is smart. The predictive type ahead stuff is really is much more usable than I expected it to be. And the Google now feels much more like the future than Siri does, and it seems to work better.
Typing is so much better. I'm so much comfortable with the 7-inch tablet that I'm more disappointed now that I can't type as fast as I can with the keyboard than I am with the iPad, where I give it the benefit of the doubt. Oh, I'm on a two-handed slow
it's interesting.
typing.
On the iPad, I feel like I'm faster because I hold it in the palm and do the one hand.
You can never type as
data
fast
typing.
one hand as you could. I'm faster than the phone, honestly, because the phone with 2 hands, that's texting typing.
Yeah.
And Nexus 7.
We should test this. This should be a test.
Well, you're gonna be biased no matter what when you because I don't know how you can make an objective test. Is the point.
I'm going to go as fast as I can. The person who's slowest gets shot.
I want to find the person who's the fastest typer on the phone and the fastest typer on a Nexus 7 and the fastest iPad.
No,
typer.
here's the norm. Here's the setup norm. We each race against each other.
Okay.
The slow person each time gets shocked.
Okay.
So your incentive is to type faster than the other person,
Done.
so you don't get
Okay.
shocked.
And you can use your one-handed typing method.
And I'll use my crazy data typing method.
And
you
I
can
will use
your
my two-handed typing method. Done.
No
Deal.
table.
No table.
Is Dr.
fine.
Dr. Venkman going to administrate this test?
Okay. Well, as long as there's no pretty girl.
Yeah, you should
Because
be
the
fine.
pretty girl always gets. Yeah.
You could wear a wig. You might be.
Well, that's a good idea. Okay, so let's talk about Star Trek Blu-rays.
Oh man,
Because you guys went to Gary's the other night and witnessed the it's still first season though, right?
Yeah.
It is a academic study.
Yeah,
You do not watch for the actual show and the content of Encounter at Farpoint, which is as far as pilots go, fascinating.
It's as sort of like a piece of history. I think it's universally agreed upon that season 3 is when that show really got going.
When the uniforms changed.
But when they got collars on the uniforms and Riker has a beard.
Encounter at Farpoint
good
set up the whole Q meta story for the whole run of the show, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it did.
I mean, there were important seeds sown, I guess, in the first
it is
season or two.
totally an academic study in terms of both the writing, the special effects, and the upconversion, the remastered effects now. We watched the documentary special.
First, let's hear bona fides. So why are you qualified to judge Star Trek: The Next Generation on Blu-ray, Norman Chan?
Because I've watched the show in its entirety at least 4 times.
How many different visors did LeVar Burton wear during the run of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Well, it was at least 2.
Yeah.
Because you can tell in Farpoint, the detail is so high, you can tell very clearly.
That he's wearing different props?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very
different
cool.
props. Yeah. You can see
Brad Shoemaker?
You can see Beverly Crusher's not wig that she eventually changes into a wig.
I used to stay home in middle school when that show was being aired for the first time on Saturday nights just to watch it.
Okay.
Like I did
that as well
when it was on.
Yeah.
And it was syndicated every night at 10 o'clock, and I watched it like basically
again
nightly.
Okay.
For years.
That's pretty good.
And have
on the
watched it
Blu-ray
many times since.
Favorite episodes all of the entire
Dude,
run?
I don't even know how to pick. There are a lot
Season
of really
6.
good,
All of season 6.
A lot of really good episodes.
I like season 8 best.
Okay. The Blu-ray is $60 on Amazon. It's actually
Wow, really?
for 26
Is
episodes.
that like a good wow or a bad
No, that
wow?
seems like a lot.
Well, dude, the MSRP is 130.
Well,
So
they sold.
take what
They
you
just
can get.
sold Blu-rays of all 4 of the TNG movies for $24
Yeah,
yesterday.
but nobody wants those.
how many
First
how many
Contact.
hours? I love First Contact.
I almost bought it just for First Contact.
How many hours of? You're talking about at least 30 hours of content.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a lot.
It's $2 an hour. Or 50 cents an hour.
Honestly, when you see the amount of
$2 an hour,
when you
math
see
is
the
hard.
amount of work and care that's gone into this restoration, it's totally worth
It's
it.
given
Like, it is-
Michael and
So there's
Denise
7
Ikuda
seasons?
a job now.
Yeah,
So that's wow. That's gonna be expensive.
yeah.
to get all of
What
them.
has Okuda been doing for like 15 years?
Just drawing ducks on schematics.
It is absolutely staggering
Can you read the labels
how
on
much,
the
how much work
screens?
they've done to it. I don't remember seeing a lot of up close screens in that first episode, but
But the,
absolutely the detail is stunning.
The documentary that came, the behind the scenes stuff that came with the, at least on disc 1 that we watched, shows the upconverting process. So literally, they go to warehouses.
You can't call it up converting. That's selling
Oh, it's
short.
not up, the remastering
Yeah.
and the rescanning. So in the CBS archives, they have a warehouse, cardboard boxes where the film reels of the actual film footage was shot. This is 4x3 film. I don't know how many millimeters it's shot.
I think
in.
it's 35 millimeter.
35 millimeter. Oh my goodness! And then there is an archivist that has to dig out all the film, which is a monumental task because the film's cross-reference. You have the same warbird shot that might have been in season 5 that was in season 1.
So
they use the same stuff from the movies.
Oh, wow.
The show.
So they went back and dug out the original like editing notes for every episode
Mm-hmm.
when it was put together the first time, and every shot, every piece of film that's composited into the final shot has a code on it.
And one scene, like a Enterprise flying through space, that is 4 different rolls of film
Right.
because you have the model shot, the light shot, and then the other model shot, and then
The planet.
and then the planet,
Wow.
and the alien, all that composited. You need to scan all of that.
Yeah, so if people don't know, the root problem of all this is that they shot every element for the show on 35 millimeter back in the
At
day.
least when they were doing models.
But what they composited it on SD video.
oh, so they didn't. So no phasers on the film.
All of the
No
effects,
special effects.
all the effects, and all the final shots only existed on low resolution video. So they
shit.
scanned in every single film element for every layer of every shot into HD, and then
Minus 2 seconds that they could not find.
Yeah, they had lost some stuff, which they have subsequently found.
2
but-
seconds of the whole show.
for one episode.
Oh.
For the little sampler that they put out a while
No,
back.
they found that, but there was additional 2 seconds they could not find,
So the whole series they've got now.
except for 2 seconds.
Okay,
That's pretty good. I mean, out of 7 series,
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, they show shots of this warehouse. It is just like these like 30-foot tall shelves full of cardboard boxes full of film.
You know, Brad, you work for CBS now.
Yeah.
Can you go
Film burns
can you get
fast,
us
too.
inside there and do a behind the scenes?
So once
we know
that's
people.
once that's
Might have to look
scanned,
into that.
it goes into an editing room where editors use the production notes and re-edit every episode.
They've
my God.
recomped every single shot for every single episode.
And then a CG artist fills in the gaps for things they cannot redo in CG. So like ILM shot all the model sequences for the actual ships, but there are creatures and special effects that they could not redo. They could not find the footage for originally.
Like the gas cloud and stuff like that?
So
yeah,
that
like
is
the crystalline entity.
Yeah.
If you
that
remember
is
that one.
as best they could recreated in CG. Like all the planets are redone.
Yeah, so they talked to the guy whose entire job is just to be the matte painter who makes planets.
Wow.
And he said he could do about one planet per day. And
With multiple layers.
and like the Okudas were
my
giving him the
God.
notes saying like, all right, this planet is 80% water and like the vegetation is this shade of bluish green and it's got
God.
this kind of cloud layer, go. And he literally shows his archive of just planet after planet that he has painted in a super high resolution. And then you see all these shots of, it's like, full 1080p shot of the Enterprise over these like brand new planets.
that's amazing.
It looks unbelievable.
How did they do things like the Dyson sphere in the Scotty episode?
I don't know.
So-
I mean,
That's
they
all
haven't-
models.
they
That is
haven't-
all ship
It's all
models.
models.
Oh, those were all models.
They haven't,
Okay.
they haven't
They
gotten
have
that
film
far.
Right,
that.
obviously.
But like you see,
This is going to be a 10-year project, right?
it's going to take a while. Yeah.
7-year project. They're once a year. I mean,
that
season
sounds-
2 is already being pimped right
It's
now.
a 7-year mission?
Sure. The documentary that's on the disc has a bunch of footage from seasons like 2 and 3, so they're doing the work now.
Okay. Cool. So it's good.
Yeah, it is like again. I don't know how much of season 1 you really want to see. It's a little spotty.
It's all the
but
Tasha Yar
we did not
episodes.
realize that episode 3 of season 1 was the crazy racist episode.
Yeah,
Which one? What was that?
I forget the name.
season 3. I don't remember the name. But
Season
it's the
1,
one,
episode 3, but it's the
It's the one with the Africa planet.
yeah.
Like it was.
Oh, yeah, I
like,
remember
It's
that.
literally just like Africans on a planet.
Yes.
Like, just like the original series had like
Nazi
the,
planet.
Right, Nazi
Yeah.
planet. Like that show was kind of.
But the best thing also not redone though the promos before each episode. Next time on Star Trek: The Next
that stuff's
Generation.
really good.
My favorite thing about Star Trek is the idea that every planet eventually gets completely homogenized.
Yeah.
No matter. So at some point in the future, Earth should end up being either America planet, China planet,
Yeah. Even
Slovakia
like,
planet.
They mostly got over that tendency later on in the series, but even toward the end, like there was the Native American planet in one episode and stuff like that. But
It's where those people settled,
I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
colonized.
But yeah, even going back to
Planet Scientologist.
those early episodes, it's cool to see how it evolved. Like seeing Farpoint, like there's no cold open on the show; they go straight into the
And Data is very
like
stiff.
Data is a very different character.
Query.
Like he's
What is that?
Right, he talks-
what is?
He talks like a computer.
He simultaneously talks and acts like a computer, but then he also has this like kind of weird cockiness
Sneer.
to him. Like he sneers a lot and sort of like
I am superior.
Brent Spiner seems like a sneerer.
yeah, I heard he's not the nicest guy. I don't know at conventions, but
notes.
but like they were really getting their footing with the characterizations and the costumes and that stuff. All feels really weird. In that
It's
first
the kind
season.
of thing if you want to watch it and really appreciate it, even if it's going to make its way on Netflix, and you could enjoy the content on Netflix and get that 720p on Netflix, to have the Blu-ray and see it on a big TV with the 7.1 sound is a completely different experience.
They redid all the audio as well.
Yeah, it's
remixed all the
went back
audio.
to the masters and
Okay.
remixed everything in 7.1. Like it is really an impressive
How
piece
did
of work.
how did the giant space station monster at the end of Farpoint look?
Nice, like
Like,
the big
did it-
jellyfish.
Yeah, it
Space-
looked-
space
it looked-
jellyfish, hand-holding jellyfish.
It looked really bad in the
It looked, good.
originals.
It looked really good. Like
Okay.
a really high level of detail.
All the tentacles and everything.
Yeah.
Ooh, tentacles.
Oh,
this
that's
kind of
the
podcast.
shot of the shot of the Federation space station.
Yeah, there's one shot they show in the documentary. It's for I don't know if it's season 1 or a later season.
I think it's 2. It might be Measure of a Man.
but it's just like a 20-second long shot of the Enterprise, like a really wide shot of it slowly docking with the big kind of like tall, long, spiral looking Federation
of
space
course.
stations. It's just like this super long and broken shot of that. That just
Amazing.
looks absolutely incredible. My only regret is that they didn't shoot that show in a widescreen format.
And they talk about why it would not
Yeah,
make
they
sense to
show
stretch it out.
exactly why they couldn't make it that aspect ratio. camera issues going on up here.
Switching cameras.
Uh-oh. Red light is on.
Red light on is good.
All right. Yeah,
$60.
Not the best season of the show, but if you want to own the whole thing,
They gotta start at the
thing,
beginning.
You have to start here, and
I wonder if this is not
awesome.
a good place to wait until the final,
This is one that no,
because
well,
they're
this
going to do 7.
So
they'll do a big box with all of them.
Well, they will, but my fear is that
everyone's gonna want to wait.
Yeah, well, it's got to be so expensive to do this stuff. I'm afraid that if it doesn't sell enough, they won't go all the way.
Well, I mean, that's what happened with the Muppets.
Yeah.
Not that they did a massive remastering job, but they released 3 seasons of the Muppet Show.
Right.
And then everybody was waiting to buy the whole run.
So don't be
Yeah.
like Will. Don't wait.
I bought all of them.
I checked.
buy them individually if you really
It
like
was
the show.
it was like the number 3 top seller in Blu-rays on Amazon when I
Yeah.
checked the other day. So hopefully
for $60.
that's a good sign.
Hey, you can trust Star Trek fans to pony up for pretty much anything.
But
right?
also hopefully they take the long view on this and realize a lot of people will pony up for the set, and hopefully they just push it through because some of the best stuff is in the later seasons.
and the initial investment has already been made.
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh,
take up the footage?
it's almost like an economy of scale because, like you said, there's a lot of shots that are used multiple times, and like once they've done all that work with those shots the first time, they can just stick them in
the models, it gets easier to do
later
and the
episodes.
planets and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
So I'm very excited about it. If you can't tell.
Let's talk about the Astro A50s a little bit. Astro, as you know, makes high-end gaming headsets, which is a controversial product category to begin with. But they make what I consider the best of the bunch. They are high-quality headphones. They sound pretty good. They're a little tuned. Traditionally, they've been a little bit tuned for games rather than music or video or whatever. My beard got stuck in the pop screen here. That's gross. But yeah, they're good headsets, albeit a little bit expensive. They just released their A50s, which is the first wireless, designed for wireless headset they've had. They had a wireless kit for the A40s that was fine, but because it was set up to make a pair of wired headphones wireless, you ended up being kind of tangled in this horrible cable snarl when you're using it. And the A50s are a pair of wireless cans that you can plug your Xbox controller into, or just use wirelessly from the base, whatever. They sound great, pretty good. We did a quick look. It's on the site now, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. But there's audio problems with the first batch that came out. They said they fixed it, that there's a firmware update for them pending for the first purchasers.
Firmware updates.
There's nothing I'm less excited about.
The best part of the email exchange was, "Hey, what a world we live in that you can get firmware updates
For your headphones.
Yeah,
the TVs we have in our office have a firmware update available that I haven't installed yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's one of those things that, like, I think he intended that email to be, hey, firmware updates for headphones. This is awesome. And all I was thinking was, fuck. What a world we live in.
Yeah. How about
firmware updates?
How about it just works out of the box? What do you think of that?
Yeah, that would be much better. So anyway, we'll check back in on those. The quick look's up now. We talked about the audio problem in it fairly at length. We'll revisit them when they fix the unit that we have and let you guys know how it is. I would not buy them as they are right now. The audio dropping every 5 minutes is the kind of thing that drives me absolutely
terrible.
bonkers.
So
And to
that's
be
the
clear,
problem?
this is not an isolated problem with Will's unit.
Yeah.
This is a confirmed problem with Astro.
They said it happened with all of the first run of units,
Ooh.
which is interesting because
I mean, they're $300, right?
$300,
that's
which is a
that's
lot
of money for headphones.
Like I can't imagine using these and feeling good about headphones that drop every 5 minutes,
Right.
After paying $500 on them.
Yeah.
I noticed a couple other reviewers mentioned them. Engadget, it was in the Engadget review, but anyway, yeah. So
There's an official statement now about the firmware issue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're fixing it, is what they're saying. But I mean, the nice thing about Astro is even though they've been purchased by Skullcandy, they're maintaining the kind of level of support that they've always done.
I didn't know they had been acquired.
Yeah, they were real quiet about it. I can't imagine why.
That's kind of scary. Like I can't think of an example in the last 10 or 15 years of a company like that, especially in like an audio space, getting bought and getting better.
Clips got bought and has been.
Who bought them?
I don't remember.
They're still going.
Yeah, but they're fine.
The classic one that I always think of is Cambridge Soundworks,
Cambridge,
which basically doesn't exist anymore.
And
I still am using a pre-creative acquisition set of
the
like
tan ones with the
little,
knob on the foot.
The little.
Oh, they're so good.
The little power cubes.
Yeah,
that's what I still use on my gaming PC.
They're awesome.
Like I bought them in 1999. They still work fine. They sound decent.
2.1, right?
Yeah. Like just fantastic.
They Creative released some Cambridge Soundworks branded speakers in the late noughts, whatever, 2000s.
The late naughties.
Naughties.
I don't like the sound of that.
We got a podcast name, guys.
Pretty naughty decade.
The late naughties.
That were really good. Like, there were some really terrible speakers there in the early years of that acquisition. I don't know what they've done recently. So stay away from the A50s for now, but we'll revisit. Norm, you've been using the Razer Ouroboros.
Nope. A Razer Ouroboros was announced yesterday, so I have not been using
You've been using another Razer ambidextrous mouse.
the Tiamat.
Okay, what kind of snake is a Tiamat?
Yeah, they're running out of mythical
Yeah.
serpents.
No, they always
and
use-
creatures.
It's either
to-
Tiamat or the T. One that starts with the T. I have a headset and a mouse, but I have the ambidextrous mouse. They announced another ambidextrous mouse yesterday.
A wireless one.
That is like the rat in that you can do the crazy thumb customization, pop it out, prop it out. But the one I'm using is, I want to say $70, very minimal, and it's pretty good so far.
Okay, pretty good so far. But ambidextrous, which is unusual.
ambidextrous.
I think the last ambidextrous mouse they had was the Death Adder, which was one of my all-time favorites. A real good mouse. I have been using the podcast app on iOS lately, which the Apple official one, which they updated 2 days ago. It seems to have taken out the bad hitching problems that I had with the first version, but it's still really skeuomorphic and weird.
Has the tape.
It has the tape. I have to say their controls for skimming a podcast are much, much better than the other apps I've used. So like when I lost my place in the Bombcast the other day, it didn't take me 5 minutes to find the spot because it skimmed too slow.
Why would you listen to that crap?
You got to listen. Commute. Got to kill the time.
Yeah.
You want to talk about standing desks for a little bit? I don't think we've talked about this in the podcast yet, Norm. And we have been now standing desking for like 3 weeks, maybe 4.
Yeah,
I
I
can't remember.
was shocked when I walked in here.
They're very tall.
Those are tall desks.
Yes. They're big boy desks.
I've known
Brad.
people, certainly known people who have done the standing desk thing before. But
Well,
this
Will's is extra tall because his keyboard's on the bottom.
Yeah, so I wanted my monitor to be eye height, and my desk is a little bit higher as a result, and I have a keyboard tray underneath, which is working out really, really lovelyly. We got foot pads yesterday, so we have like anti-fatigue mats, is I think what they're called. They were $20 each at the kitchen supply warehouse down the street. And I think we should probably still get stools at some point, just so that we have someplace to sit when we want to sit. But I'm quite pleased with this setup, and it's working really well for me. I found like the first week or two, I kind of got tired midday and wanted to go sit down on the couch or something. But now it's if I need to do 8 hours, it's no big deal.
How long? I mean, well, you say 8 hours, but that's obviously the course.
I mean, we
of the
go to
entire day.
lunch
But
and-
yeah. So what I was curious about is how long, like, without stepping away, without breaking up the kind of the posture that you're in. Like, what's the longest you can do attached to the input devices and using the computer?
So when I edited,
Standing?
Yeah.
Whole day. There's no reason why.
Yeah.
As long as you shift your weight and go and stand on comfortable
like you go get a bottle of water,
Like
or
for like 45 minutes, an hour, you don't feel like stepping away and
No.
moving
I mean,
around?
you can step away.
Yeah.
Like what Joey does, and Joey's done standing desk longer than we have, is he actually steps away and does like a lap, or he does his push-ups every hour.
Okay.
Well,
It's important not to lock your knees, I'm sure.
yeah, if
Oh,
you
no,
lock your knees,
gotta,
you'll go down.
go
pass
tiptoe and just bend your legs.
Pass out.
Yeah, I mean, I usually stand about shoulder width apart, the legs, and kind of rock a little
wide
bit back
stance.
and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, wide stance. You do a little hip rocking, maybe
What are
do a
the-
little tree pose.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I know there's tons of maybe not like clinical research, but a lot of thought out there at least. But
There's a
like,
fair amount of clinical research.
to you
even.
guys, like, what are the primary benefits?
Well, the study that came out a few months ago that said people who sit more than 8 hours a day die 2 years earlier than everybody
I
else.
saw that, yeah.
That was this prime motivator.
Yeah. Well, but I see that, but I wonder if it actually means sitting versus standing, or if it's more just a
Lethargic
function of not
versus-
moving. You know, because you're not really moving when you're standing either. I wasn't sure what
The
the
study that was
there.
quoted extensively said sitting. It was specifically sitting.
Really?
Yeah, it has to do with the position that you sit in and blood flow and
Oh,
the propensity to form clots and stuff like
Oh,
that.
geez.
So yeah, I mean, I thought I honestly I just wanted to try something. I wanted to try it and see what it was like. At the time we were talking about getting standing desks, the clinical research was not really there, or was just starting to come out. But I mean, I hate sitting all day long, and I sit here all day, and then I go home and I sit all night, and standing isn't a bad thing. So yeah. Plus, I wanted more storage under my desk, so now I can do that.
Yeah.
The one thing that's interesting to me is I found that my right arm, I've used adjustable arms on my chair for so long that my arm gets tired. Like that's the thing. More than my legs getting tired or my feet getting sore or whatever. Like the right arm, especially mousing, holding it the right height to mouse, gets real tired. But I've got a nice negative angle on the keyboard tray now, so I kind of slant down.
That's because you're using the undermounted. You don't have a desk to rest your arm on.
I'm not. Yeah. Well, at first I was resting my arm on the desk, and now I'm not anymore, which is obviously changed things some.
I see these are all different heights. I guess they must have been tailored to your height.
I think Norm's and Joey's are the same height, more or
Joey's
less.
are exactly the same.
It looks like about an inch different from here.
They are customized, but I told our contractor dude, make mine the same height as Joey's.
And I wanted a little bit taller. The key is to make sure that the top of your monitor is a little bit above eye level. And you want your keyboard to be a right. When you use your keyboard, you want to make your elbows to make a right angle when your shoulders are in the right neutral position, a little bit back, not forward hunched, just kind of resting. So if you do that, then you should be good. And the adjustable keyboard tray underneath is great because it means I can kind of spread my legs apart more, slouch down, whatever, and get the right angle. Anything else you want to talk about in what we're testing?
Yep.
What do you want to talk about, Norman Chan?
The MakerBot.
Oh, I forgot the MakerBot came since we were here last time.
A new MakerBot?
The replicator.
What?
It's right there behind you. Turn around.
Very hot.
You can. No, it's not that kind of replicator.
You can make a teacup.
Yeah, we can make a teacup for you.
Teacup.
It'll take about 45 minutes or an hour.
And you can choose your color.
Does that
Two
mean
colors.
you guys are moving into the post-scarcity economy?
If
Post-scarcity.
if you want things, if
There is no invisible hand for us.
if scarcity is based on the availability of ABS plastic and 50-foot spools of 1.75 millimeter thick plastic, yes,
Yeah.
we can make all of the 1.75 millimeter plastic ABS plastic stuff you want.
Having seen and used 2 MakerBots previous to this,
All of them. We've used all of the MakerBots
and
at this
built
point.
the past 2 ones, it's incredible, absolutely incredible how much of a finished and easy to use product this is out of the box.
I mean, it's still, just to be clear, it still requires a little bit of fiddling. We had some early problems with warping and stuff like that. Getting the build platform balanced, leveled right is a little bit tricky.
Having to put a extruder together and putting those acrylic plastic dinosaurs together, going from that to just lifting it out of the box, plugging a few things in, and the most complicated
Screwing the thing onto the platform.
Yeah, the most complicated thing was balancing the platform, and that's it. An SD card goes in. The screen is awesome, extremely user friendly.
The interesting thing to me about this, and I was talking to one of the guys from MakerBot about it the other night on Twitter, is it's somebody just turned on the lights. That's weird. They've taken all the places that the old MakerBot had problems or failed or was difficult to configure or whatever, and they've really done a great job of streamlining that stuff and making it really, really dead simple to use. They've built some of the more delicate pieces out of injection molded plastic now, so that they're to very specific tolerances instead of laser cut wood, which is what they or acrylic, which is what they used before. It is a much dramatically better machine than the previous versions.
Is this like a new higher end product line for them, or does this replace the old?
Well, they always replace. They make one product at a time.
Okay.
So I think
this is
still,
the MakerBot now.
This is the MakerBot. They use the replicator name, which is obviously a big thing. I think they're still selling some Thingamatics on steep discount if they have them left over. You still have to assemble them yourselves. But the other thing that's changed with this is it's a finer precision head, and they have 2 heads on the machine at once. So right now you mainly use those to print 2 different color plastics at the same time. In the not too distant future, you'll be able to use those 2 print heads to print like a water soluble plastic and a non-water soluble plastic. So you can use the water soluble plastic as a support material. Because the thing about an additive plastic process is you can't. If you wanted to print, say, a TIE fighter, just to give an example, you can't, it's hard to do. You have to either do it in pieces. You want everything to lay flat and build up from that flat surface.
X-Wing is a better example. An X-Wing, because the top wing is...
An X-Wing you can print because you put it on the back. So you point the nose in the air and it'll just print. That's fine.
TIE
TIE Fighter, there's no flat surface that you can build up off of.
Right.
Anytime there's overhang, it's going to droop and not work quite right.
Because plastic
comes out molten and it doesn't cool fast enough. If it cools fast enough, it warps, and if it doesn't cool fast enough, then it sags.
You can build capes on your WoW figures.
Right. So you can use the soluble plastic as a support.
Yes.
For the other part, and then remove it.
Complex shapes, gears.
Yeah. A completely assembled machine.
Wow.
And then when you take the plastic out, you put the water soluble plastic, you put it in hot water, the water soluble plastic dissolves, you rinse that off, and only the ABS remains.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we're inching toward the future. And I think probably the word on the street is it seems like the next version will be a sintered plastic rather than the additive ABS process that these guys are using now. But yeah, it's an amazing, it's really an amazing device. It costs less than like my PC did 10 years ago. It's $2,000 assembled, which is, I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at teaching kids how to do CNC stuff or whatever, it's great for that kind of thing. Yeah. And I've even talked to a couple of people who are like design engineers who use it to build the first pass models to do proof of concepts and stuff like that to make sure things are going to work before they pay for a prototype to be made in China. Or whatever.
It's kind of one of those things. If you were like a shop teacher for high school, you would petition the hell out of your school to get one of these for your classroom.
Perfect for a classroom.
I think everybody should have one. Like anytime you have like a CNC type class or CAD classes, people should it's worth the $2,000 to put these in classrooms so kids can see the 3D thing that's in their head and on the computer in the real world. So yeah. Anything else for what we've been testing? I guess that's it. We'll talk about Aperture at some other time. Let's take a couple questions and we'll call it a show, I guess.
Emails?
Well, but we do the other one.
Emails.
We don't do emails. We do
emails.
No.
Questions.
Boom. Brad gets so weirded out when he hears his voice.
Yeah.
I guess no questions.
Oh.
We do questions here.
Sorry, it just popped out.
If you have a question for This Is Only a Test, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Keep it short, under 45 seconds, and make sure it sounds like the podcast does when you listen to it after you record it yourself. Do not record this from seat 3A on an airplane like somebody did last week. We're not going to run an airplane recorded question. Here's the first question from Jack.
Hi, Tested Crew. It's Jack from Liverpool again.
Hi, Jack.
Merseyside, the area Liverpool's a part of, has the first ever public park, which was also the template for Central Park. I've been eyeing my old PlayStation games recently, and I was wondering if I could get a better experience using an emulator and my PC. It's my thought that load times, data management, and hiding the awful giant pixels on the older games would be easier using a PC rather than my PlayStation 2, which is hooked up to my HD TV with a component cable. Finally, if you had to work for a Batman villain as a henchman, who would you choose as an employer? And thank you again for the advice last week. I ended up getting a bunch of Broken Sword games on your recommendation for good old adventure games. Thank you, and always be tested.
Okay. If you had to be a Batman henchman...
No, go answer the question first. I want time to think about this.
Time to ponder that one.
So the answer to the question is I had not actually done any PlayStation 1 emulation because I don't have many PlayStation 1 games.
I haven't either.
PS1 emulation?
I wish Jeff were here right now. He would know.
He's the guy for this.
But, I have
Days
to...
of Bleem.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have to imagine that like post-processing and
you'll render at a higher resolution.
Higher resolutions and stuff have to just be standard in PlayStation emulation.
And I'm sure you can run AA, I would think, but I don't know.
Sure. I don't know how elaborate they've gotten with that stuff, but it has to be better than on a PS2.
I will say that in my experimentation with Dolphin, which is I guess one generation newer because it's the GameCube emulator, right?
Well,
I mean, I used it to play.
Wii. Yeah,
I used it to play GameCube games.
Yeah.
GameCube games rendered on the PC at PC resolutions looked dramatically better than GameCube games, even rendered with the component cable on the TV.
Oh no, I mean with Dolphin stuff, you can render any resolution you want on the back end, and then it'll descale, so you do real anti-aliasing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine there's similar stuff available for PlayStation.
I would say it's worth experimenting with.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Can't be hard to Google.
I have an answer.
Norm has an answer. Which Batman henchman would you rather work for?
I would choose Poison Ivy because with Poison Ivy you are under her spell, her pheromones, and so it is the closest you're going to get to the erogenous cloud.
All right,
Bradley.
Oh man, pass. Come back to me.
I think my choice.
No one said. I'll give you the wrong answers. Never say Mr. Freeze because in the comics everyone complains that when you work for Mr. Freeze you're cold as hell.
Yeah, of course.
Never want the Joker because he can kill you at any time.
He died. And no, Joker, the lifespan of Joker, bad guy.
Catwoman does not have henchmen.
Nope.
Not a villain.
That's true.
You don't want Penguin might pay well.
Yeah.
It's going to be cold with the Penguin, too,
I was thinking with the Penguin, you might live the high life.
Exactly. With Penguin, you get a
lot of fancy nightclubs and playing poker.
Yep.
Two-Face is out because I always lose coin flips. Always lose coin flips.
I was thinking Penguin.
Penguin is not a bad choice.
Yeah. You live high on the hog.
But I mean, the problem with Penguin,
you have opportunity to move up the
Yes,
ladder.
yes.
Exactly. You could be a manager of a nightclub.
the problem with Penguin though is he's kind of gross. I mean, when we met that Oswald Cobblepot cosplayer at Comic-Con, you didn't want to talk to him for too long. And when he tried
Penguin
to shake
doesn't
your
want to talk
flipper,
to you. He's all about hierarchy.
You know what I like
businessman.
about you know what I like about the last 20 years of or 15 years of the Penguin is the range of interpretations on that character. Like the Tim Burton one, which
James
is like
DeVito.
very deformed and
DeVito,
actually
yeah.
penguin-like, and then the one in Arkham City is kind of like a Cockney guy, and he's got like the bottle.
He's a short dude.
The bottle end crammed into his eye forcibly and stuff like that. Like they go all over the place with the Penguin.
I think.
that.
Can I go with like in a post Joker Arkham City? Can I go with Harley Quinn henchman? Because she had henchmen.
I guess why.
Because they seem to live longer. No cold weather. No weird fish.
She seems
monster.
She seems pretty
bird guys.
inept as villains go, so maybe you wouldn't be in danger a lot.
Yeah, you just throw down the gun and run.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Batman. I think Norm got the right answer though. I think there's a clear
not
right
bad.
answer on Poison Ivy.
That's not bad.
I don't know. Those are all the Batman villains I know.
Bane?
Bane doesn't really have henchmen.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, henchman. You got to be really strong for that.
Like your Hush, no henchmen there. Can you count Lex Luthor in like the crossover ones?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Poison Ivy then.
Mad Hatter.
Mad Hatter,
Mind Control?
no. Well, Mind Control, same issue, but then you have to wear goofy hats, right?
Yes, you do.
Riddler has henchmen.
Riddler does have henchmen.
I like puzzles.
Okay, if you really like puzzles.
I love puzzles.
All right.
And, I like even setting up puzzles. I've always thought one of the most fun jobs in the world would be the guy who makes the puzzles for Survivor. Like, I think that would be a really awesome
you would
job.
make a fine Riddler henchman.
Okay. I've 100%ed Arkham City campaign.
That's impressive.
I got all the trophies.
Wow,
I got
of
all
them?
the secrets.
Did you use a guide?
Fuck, of course. Are you
Okay.
kidding?
I was gonna say.
Although you kind of don't have to. Because they do a good job if you use the detective vision and get the informants.
Tagging them for later and doing the informant stuff. That stuff's fantastic. You're right.
And you can actually expose all of the trophies on the map if you get enough informants.
Yep.
Which becomes a kind of fun game. And like
I could see that.
Like the thing that I like about that game is it really makes you feel like Batman.
Yeah.
Like after playing it more, love Saints Row, love Skyrim. I think Batman Arkham City is my favorite game of last year.
Well,
yeah, and even though it was, I think we didn't give it enough credit just as a community.
I didn't either at the time.
Yeah,
it took a lot longer to get into than I expected, so I just sort of wrote it off for a while.
Yep, I think we just lost our high cam, but
Something's beeping.
yeah, it's the top camera. Let's do one more question and then call it a show.
Hello, tested crew. This is Mantas from Vilnius, the capital city of Lithuania. My question, with privacy on Skype being an issue in the news recently, as well as more of our personal lives getting brought online, what is the expectation of privacy from various services we use? Our contacts, personal information, files, and other tidbits are stored in the cloud, and even if you trust the Don't Be Evil motto, nothing is ever perfectly secure from outside interference, be it from criminals or the government. Is not putting your most sensitive information online the only way to ever be sure? Thanks, and always be testing.
That is the only way to be sure.
Eternal vigilance.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. My rule on email is always that I never write anything on email that I don't want the entire internet to see.
Yeah.
Or GChat for that matter.
Google Chat. Yeah. Hi, Leo. Yeah, there's a whole. I think that the only if you're worried about that, don't put it on the internet. Don't use Google Docs. Don't use Dropbox. Don't use any of that stuff because you're putting your security in someone else's hands.
Yeah.
The alternative is to do the thing from Cryptonomicon and go download Linux, make your own distro.
Yeah.
Where you know all the source code, you know everything that's happened in there, which at this point is probably an impossible project. Like Linux has gotten complex to the point that I don't think one person can hold all of how Linux works in his head. And make your own OS. And then build a server for yourself, take that to a rack, lock it up in the rack, lock it down. And even then, someone else is going to have access to that hardware in a colo or something like that if you're not careful. So yeah, if you're worried about it, the other alternative is to use theoretically perfect encryption or safe encryption, theoretically impossible to crack encryption, real passwords, and all that. But I don't think that even that's not 100%. So yeah, be more paranoid. Anybody else? Everybody's quiet all of a sudden. I think people are thinking about lunch. That'll do it for us this week. Thank you, Brad Shoemaker, for stopping by. Anything to plug, guys?
Yes, absolutely. Brad, things to plug?
Giantbomb.com, I guess.
You guys are still doing video games and things?
Come to the website to hear about video games and stuff.
Are you going to CAX this weekend?
Jeff and Ryan are going.
Okay.
I think that's it.
I think I'm going to come by on Saturday night.
What's that?
PAX?
We will all be at PAX. We have a panel.
Ooh. I'll be there.
I can't remember what night.
It's Friday night.
I want to say Friday because it's the same night as Gary's
Friday night
Walking Dead panel.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Friday night, some theater.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Speaking of which...
Do I still rate to get in early or no? Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Walking Dead for iOS is out. I'm going to make that pin
Plugging for Gary.
And it's $5 on a unified app for iPad, iPhone. iPad 2s and newer. iPhone, I believe, I don't know if it's 3GS or 4 and newer.
Probably 3GS. It's probably 4 for sure. Maybe 3GS.
And I think that's only episode 1, so it's not $5 for all 5 episodes. Season pass, I think, is like $15 additional dollars. So $20 for all 5 episodes.
But is it one app with in-app purchases for the others?
With in-app purchase.
So like that, I've been playing on the PC.
Yeah, same here.
But that is the best. Like the way they do that on the Xbox to handle to bypass all the
one
certification
download
stuff,
and then a piece of DLC for each individual.
So smart.
They solved that problem real well across like Steam. Like if you already had the full season pass,
it just downloads.
It downloads as a patch. It happens seamlessly. The only disappointment I had with the Steam version is it didn't carry my save game over.
I know. I heard that. I heard that
was hugely disappointing because that is the linchpin of that entire
Were you able
series.
to fix that?
There is. I did find a fix on the Steam forums that seems to have worked for everybody who responded saying, "Yep, that fixed it." But it's it's a real shame. All it was copying your old preferences file from the original install into the directory.
Oh, they moved the directories or something?
Second episode. Well, yeah, they screwed something up there.
Are you saying you can change your decisions, manipulate your
Well, you can
decisions?
always start a new game. You can play each episode again.
Well, I mean, without having to play the entire episode in the actual pref file?
Well, I didn't try to edit it and see what it looks like. I don't know that it's plain text, but it's a shame that didn't work out of the box because that's the thing. That's the gimmick.
Well, I want to talk about save files in just a moment. Stay tuned for fake outtakes. We'll be back next week with another episode of This Is Only Test. Today's outro comes from Sam. Thanks, Sam. See you guys later. Hi there. I didn't see you. Test it.
I'm gonna show you a picture, and this is gonna be that's so gross. But I'm so proud. I'm so proud that you.
Test it. So, save files.
Yes.
I rebuilt my PC and did a Windows 8 install.
Yeah.
And I thought that because games were saved in Steam Cloud, they were going to be safe. The saved games were going to be safe.
So you did not back them up?
So I did not back them up.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I backed up the machine, but I didn't go through and usually in the old days when you built a new machine, you would go through and look at the save games that you wanted and pull them out manually and protect them.
And it was a horribly imprecise process fraught with guesswork because every game puts them in
it's still
a different
fucked.
place. And it's still like that.
Yeah.
But the Steam Cloud ones, I've never had a problem with.
Unless they're games for Windows games. Because the games for Windows games, some of them encrypt the saves.
Oh, no.
And that encryption key is tied to a key that's generated when you first sign into Xbox Live on the PC.
That sucks.
So in order, I had, for example, Arkham City.
Yeah.
I had my save file, but it was encrypted. And even though I was signed into the same Xbox Live account, it didn't work because the key was different. And I had to go back into the backup of my C drive into some application data directory and fish out the appropriate file and replace the one that I already had. So had I played other games for Windows games before I did this, I would potentially have two key files I'd have to switch back and forth between.
Or if you hadn't backed up your old machine,
or if I hadn't backed up my old
lose
machine,
those saves. That is
gone.
horrible.
Especially for a game that I'd put 40 hours into.
Yeah.
I would have been super pissed.
I wonder if some games, or maybe just some earlier games, didn't use that system because I reinstalled and brought a Red Faction Gorilla save over, and that worked fine.
Yeah, my Fallout saves were fine as well.
Okay, so it must have been a more recent thing.
It may be something that Rocksteady's flipped by unintentionally, or it may be a newer version of games for Windows things. I know Arkham City, and it was Saints Row
no, that was the Steamworks. There are very few. I can't even think of any upcoming.
Well, Dark Souls.
That one is. You're right.
His games for Windows Live.
Nothing else comes to mind though.
Well,
I mean, hardly
anybody
is supporting it. Honestly, I have finally. I'm lagging behind everybody else, but even I have finally conceded that it's too much trouble to be worth the achievements.
Yeah,
I would much rather. Steamworks is so much better at this point. Like, just forget it.
Yeah, it just works.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're gonna reinstall for Windows, the upcoming Windows 8, be aware that you need to back up. There's a good thread in the Steam forums that explains how to back up your Arkham City saves. So
I think I mean, again, they've largely fixed it with Steam Cloud.
Yeah,
but that's still dependent on the developer to support, and there's still a lot of games that don't. Like Endless Space is a Steamworks game for updates and stuff, but they don't do Steam achievements. They don't do cloud saves, and probably some other stuff. And like, I don't know why you would go halfway with that stuff. I wish every single game had that, because like you said, it's a huge pain in the ass to track down the save for every game.
Well, are there limits on Steam save file sizes for Steam Cloud games? Because Skyrim didn't have Steam Cloud, did it?
They've added it.
Oh, they did.
I think. I'm pretty sure they've added Steam Cloud. And it didn't. You're right. It didn't.
It had enormous saves.
Yeah, they get bigger. Well, they're not huge. They get to be, if you play it a long time, they get to be like 10, 12 megabytes each.
But you can have an infinite number of them.
You're right.
Yeah.
You can have and Endless Space is another one where you could have a shitload of saves if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about food.
Oh, I
Two
like
things
food.
with food. Will you have been testing a grinder for meat?
I have. I ground my own hamburgers last weekend.
Oh, that sounds great.
Talk about the grinder and what you actually did to buy the meat and why it's different from ground meat that you buy at the supermarket.
So I bought the grinder, and I kind of bought it as an experiment. So I was looking at like the cheapest way possible to get a grinder, because you can spend a ridiculous amount of money on a grinder if you want. The reason I started down this path is I used to go to the butcher counter at Whole Foods or Lenardi's or one of the fancy grocery store, someplace with a good meat counter, and I would get them to grind specific cuts of meat for me, and usually just run it through once. So when you buy a hamburger from the grocery store, it's usually run through the grinder 2 times. And what that does is makes it a little bit more uniform and a little bit more attractive, but it distributes the fat and the collagen and all the stuff that's in ground beef, and it affects the way it cooks, and it makes it a little bit less tender, in my experience. And this is something that the Modern Cuisine guys have said as well. It's funny, when I was a kid, my dad used to always do this, and I thought he's crazy. And then I started doing it, and there's a noticeable difference.
Grind once, not twice.
Grind once, not twice. It looks horrible. Looks gross.
Looks way more marbleized.
There'll be chunks of fat, there'll be chunks of meat, and it looks really inconsistent, and it does not look appetizing at all. But trust me.
So you bought a grinder that was part of your food processor.
So the reason I stopped doing this is that the meat counter at the grocery store I usually go to stopped doing the grinding for me, because they said cleaning the grinder is a big pain in the ass, and corporate has told us not to do this anymore.
For that one dude.
It's part of Whole Foods becoming more shitty, basically. So I was like, I gotta buy a grinder, and I'd done some grinding.
I'm not gonna eat meat ground twice.
Well,
fuck that.
Exactly. You only live once, man. If you're gonna eat a hamburger, make it a fucking good hamburger. So I tried grinding in the food processor for a while, which worked okay. The meat ends up a little weird, and if you don't pay attention, grind it too much, then you end up with kind of a meat slurry instead of ground meat. So that's not good. And I was looking at meat grinders, and like I said, you can spend $500 on a meat grinder if you want. I don't want to do that, especially trying this out to see how much of a pain in the ass it was. So I went for the cheapest option possible, which is a plastic attachment for your stand mixer. It goes onto the front of the stand mixer. Basically, it's a big screw, like it works almost like a fruit juicer, but with meat holes at the end instead of juice holes. And it forces the meat through the end of the thing, which is a thick piece of metal with little holes in it. And there's a blade on the inside that chops occasionally, circles occasionally, that cuts off chunks so that it doesn't get clogged.
You can get long, stringy.
You get medium
strands of ground.
There's technique that I need to work on. So you cut a meat, you cut it up into probably half-inch, 3/4-inch cubes, maybe an inch cubes. You chill those until they're not frozen but firm. You don't want loose meat. And then run them through kind of slowly and collect the meat in a bowl on the other side of the thing. It was really easy. Took maybe 10 minutes to grind 1.5 pounds of a hamburger, which was enough for 4 or 5 hamburgers. And worked really well. Hamburgers turned out great. Everybody always says the thing about meat grinders is that they're a real pain in the ass to clean. That is definitely true. They're a little bit scary. Like if you do something dumb and get your finger jammed into the meat hole, you could do horrible things to yourself. So always use the provided implement to jam the cubes of meat down the hole. And
don't get your finger stuck in the meat hole.
Yeah, and then don't don't work the patty too hard once you have the actual meat. You want to handle it as little as possible. and I highly recommend it. The plastic meat grinder gets a little bit hot, which makes the meat that comes out a little bit not as it doesn't retain its shape as well, which is undesirable. I probably wouldn't use this to make sausage or something like that involves casing, because that would be a nightmare getting it out of it just looks like it wouldn't work very well, and also it's kind of gross. And that's pretty much it. Like I don't think I'm going to spend $300 on a big grinder, but for making hamburgers, I think I'm probably going to do this. And the thing that I do is, instead of buying, usually when you buy hamburger from the store, it's one cut of meat that's ground. And with this, I end up doing a little bit of top sirloin, a little bit of bottom round, or a little bit, two different kind of fattiness contents of meat. So you get the right amount of fat and still a nice cut of meat, and it works really well. I highly recommend it. I'll probably do a post after I've done a few more rounds of hamburgers and kind of figured out what I like best. And I probably need to read more about the meat selections too, because I winged it on the first one and went with what was reasonably priced. And I want to try some other stuff before we make a firm recommendation. But that ties into the Modern Cuisine stuff. Those videos are finally up.
Yep.
We talked about that a few weeks ago. I watched those videos last night again with Gina because she hadn't seen them yet. And it struck me that it is terrifying how scary it was to stand on camera and describe food that had just been prepared by a world-class chef while he's standing there looking at you and gauging your reaction.
Oh, it's amazing. It tastes delicious. Unbelievable. I'm flummoxed.
That's good.
Well, but it's not even that. It's
absolutely incredible.
The thing that becomes hard is the Food Network thing, where you have to describe the flavors.
Yeah. You do the Alan Richman.
And
this is one of the best sandwiches I've ever eaten in my life. Oh, it's amazing.
But that's not sufficient.
Oh my god, it's so amazing. Oh, look at it drip. Oh,
but that's not sufficient, because if you're describing food to people at home who can't smell or taste the food, you have to say, okay, this you have to get real intense descriptions of the flavors.
You have to be very descriptive.
There's a taster's thesaurus for you.
I mean, it's something like I remember as I was watching the first video, because we shot the Pissu and the elote video first, and I remember midway through the first segment thinking, "Oh shit, I'm gonna have to taste this," and
think of something to say.
It's good. That's interesting.
And I was like, I didn't have the words for it.
You're right, but at the same time, really intensely specific descriptions of how food tastes can easily sound like the most pretentious bullshit on the planet.
And that's the challenge, right? Is doing that without sounding like a douchebag.
Yeah.
And I think
a lot of like the top chefs and stuff like that out there.
Yeah.
Just great on the nerves at some point.
Well, that's the difference between Top Chef and Chopped.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like Chopped because the judges sound like douchebags every single time.
Yeah.
And I like Top Chef because they're pretty good at describing the way food tastes.
Right. Without sounding too haughty.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they go a little far, but
sure.
But they're also eating, like, if I could eat any meal in the world, I think the Top Chef finalist dinner would be the one that I would want to eat.
Oh yeah.
Because those people are on top of the game at the best moment of their lives. Generally,
the Top Chef contestants recently opened some new restaurants in San Francisco.
Yeah,
who was it?
Market and Rye is a sandwich place close to where I live, actually.
Well, in Public House in the ballpark is Tracy Desjardins, who was, I think, a finalist on Top Chef Masters. That's fantastic.
Public House?
Public House is really good. Don't go during baseball season.
Right now.
Yeah, don't go now. So anyway, what's going on with you guys? What else should we talk about? I feel like we talked about food.
Getting lunch.
Got to roll. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next Thursday for another episode of This Is Only Test. Bye.